What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's staying safe. It's been a little bit since the last podcast we did. This is going to be podcast number 10 with Flatout Investments and WTS Dynamics. Today we have a really cool guest on. We have his name is Lee Dennis. Lee is well, he was, I would say, a Ford guy, but I think he's a little bit of a Ford guy and a Chevy, and I think he's a high performance guy. He's like, I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter as long as it's badass and I could, have my fun with it and go out racing with it and be serious. I think that's what's important to him. Just like all of us, we all kind of in that section of car guy and car girl. So that's pretty awesome, Lee. So Lee, dude, you got your monster back here in the background. This is ridiculous.
Yes, sir.
It's great to have you on the podcast, man. I'm glad you kind of just, I reached out to you the other day. I saw the pictures that you took on Facebook, which were pretty awesome pictures, actually. And then I was like, oh, dude, Lee, let's do the podcast. You're like, yeah, sure. And you
Let's do
scheduled the
this.
podcast. So that was super cool. Awesome, man. So so we both have our four topics. I want to just, before anybody, because I think everybody's be like, holy shit, look at that fucking thing. Okay, I actually have a question for you, Lee. And I
Huh?
think we talked about this before when we had that first conversation. This is not that same car that was on 1320's video, right? That ridiculous, like 3,000 horsepower car.
No, this isn't that car, but this one was
Okay.
on 1320 video.
Oh, it was.
It
Okay,
was,
cool.
yes.
Awesome. And the car, as it sits there, right there behind you, what is it making? I mean, do you even know what the car's making at this point? Like how
I
much?
hon- I haven't had it on the dyno. When I got it, it was limited by the fuel system.
Okay,
I've got a fuel system in it now. I'm waiting on dyno time to get it tuned, but it'll be around 12, 1300, something like
12 or
that.
13. And that's kind of like what you're shooting for. Okay,
Correct.
cool. And the turbos, because they look, I mean, they look ginormous sticking out of the engine, but I think it's just the way that they did the piping. What size are they?
It's twin 66s.
Okay, so 66s. So yeah, that's 1200. That seems about right. I think you could probably push them to 14 maybe with E85.
That I'm going E85, and I'm kind of thinking they'll max out around 1300.
1300. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a ridiculous amount of power in a C6, so that's going to be pretty insane.
For sure.
Um,
It's still a manual too. So
and it's still manual, which I salute you for that one because the whole automatic thing. I mean, well your Shelby was also your no your GT500 obviously was automatic. It was forcefully automatic.
right. Well, DCT.
DCT, right,
Right.
obviously. Very cool. And let's kind of go over that for a little bit. So you literally just recently, what was it? I think it was a month ago, 2 months ago, was when you got rid of the Shelby GT500, right?
Right. Last month, same day I picked this car up is when I got rid of the GT500.
Awesome. And like you were just telling me right before we started recording, so you kind of walked into the dealership. Was it a Ford dealership?
No, actually, it was crazy when I the guy that bought my GT500 owns the dealership.
Okay.
When I delivered it to him in Arizona, and when I pulled in, man, it was just like it literally looked like a car meet. There's so many badass cars just everywhere. And
Right.
I walked up to him. I was like, man, I was like, would you guys having a meet just for the delivery or something? He's like, no, these are the cars we got for sale.
Awesome.
So
That's amazing.
I made a joke. He had another C6 sitting there. I was like, man, he's like, I tell you what, give me this car in 70 grand. You can have the GT500. And
Right.
he's like, this one's sold, but I got another one inside you might be interested in. And that's when he went and showed me this one.
And when you looked at this, you're like, okay, yeah, this is definitely more down my alley.
Right. Yeah. And it was just a joke at first. And I was like, man, that thing is kind of sweet. And
Right.
I wasn't looking to buy another car yet because, I have some stuff going on.
Right.
And I really wasn't looking to. And then we just made a deal, man. I couldn't pass up.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, you see something like that, it's just sitting in front of you. It's kind of like the universe, like, hey, you better take this thing. This thing's insane.
Right.
Um, very cool, man. Very cool. So the Shelby GT500 you had for a period of what, 2 years, a year?
A year. I was one of the first people to get it. They came out, they started releasing them uh end of November, early December last year.
Right. Awesome. So that's pretty amazing. You were one of the first. Yeah, I think we had talked about that as well. And your GT500 was no stock GT500. You had that car at least, I think you had told me 1,000 plus horsepower, right?
It was so I made 1,083 without the nitrous.
That's ridiculous. And it was a full bolt-on car, no cam, right? No cams.
No cam. It wasn't even full bolt on yet. It still had the factory manifolds. Um, I mean, it had a lot that I could still have done to it.
Right.
It didn't have the smallest pulley. It had a 2.5 pulley. They make a 2.2 pulley for it.
Yeah, but that sometimes with those small, I mean, have you has I unfortunately have been out of the loop for a little bit, so I mean, you'd be a much better person to tell me. But the smaller pulleys, because I came from back in the day, the Terminator Cobras, I had my own, and I went down that same alley of all those exact bolt-ons that go on the Shelbys, the Shelby GT500s now, and dude, I had the smallest pulley that you could make for the upper pulley, the supercharger pulley. Dude, it ended up biting me in the ass. I ended up overspinning the rotors and baking there's like a film on the rotors that is supposed
Mhm.
to basically make the rotors like a airtight fit. And it ended up baking that film that was on the rotors.
Yeah, they do create a lot of heat. That is the reason why I say with a 2.5.
Right,
On the dyno, they make a whole lot of power, but when you're on the track, I mean, that's just creating so much heat. I was
right.
already fighting heat issues as it was, so I didn't see a point in going to any more boost from that blower. If I had kept the car, I would be waiting for the Whipple right now and just
For
going
sure.
that route.
Yep, for sure. And then let me ask you, the Chevy G500s, do they have, because I mean, obviously, like you just said, they unfortunately, this is the biggest problem with, a top-mount supercharger, root supercharger they make. They just, unfortunately, that's their biggest drawback, I would say, is that they make so much heat. When you go with E85, did you see a huge difference in intake temperatures?
Well, so the car got tuned on the day after I got the car.
Okay,
And then the next
nice.
time I really had anything done to it, we went straight to 85. So
Okay,
I really don't know what would have been before and after as far as intake temps. But I wouldn't think that it would change. It would change the temperatures in the combustion chamber, but I wouldn't think it would
right,
change the intake temps at all.
right. That's
But you
actually
are
right.
able to obviously run more boost and more timing with the 85 just because it is cooling the cylinders down.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it's one of the smartest thing. I mean, I remember back in the day when I was with my Terminator and the E85 was just kind of, it was, they had the Evo 8 guys were around and they were really going crazy with it, testing it out. They had companies like AMS that was going crazy with the 85. And at that
Right.
point, it kind of exploded. Then the GTR guys got on it, and then some of the underground racing Gallardos at the time were the fastest cars of the time, actually, of the exotics. They got on E85, and then from that point on, it just exploded. It was one of the best.
Right.
I mean, in my opinion, it's obviously it's better than C16 because C16 is so expensive.
Right.
Um, and
That
it's
is the
kind of,
thing, man. It's. I mean, you don't get quite the octane, but you get the cooling effect.
exactly.
So I mean, it's. I would say, like my car I had before the GT500.
Hmm.
I built it in 2010, and that's kind of when E85 started becoming a thing around here.
Right.
And I just like wasn't a whole lot of people tuning on it and all that, so I went with the C16.
Right.
And looking back, I was like, man, I would have made so much more power, but I mean, that car was already on C16. It was making 1100. So
Yeah, that's a lot of. I mean, that you're when you get to the thousands. I mean, I know today, people throw that number around, man, but dude, people don't realize like 1,000 horsepower. Like some of these, like for example, your Shelby G500. I think you told me that your Shelby was one of the highest from the guys that you took it to. I forgot the name. What was the name of the shop?
Palm Beach Dyno.
Yeah, Palm Beach Sound. They did I mean, they're supposedly right now they're getting huge because so many people are like guys with the Shelby GT350s are going to them, and they're getting installed. I think they have a kit that's an 850 kit. It's 850 of the wheels,
Yep,
bolt-on kit, an upgraded
absolutely.
kit. So I think they really know what they're doing.
Yeah,
Whatever.
man, Ken at Palm Beach Dyno, when these cars first came out, man, he got so excited about it. It's because he's been big in the Mustang world for a few years,
Okay.
and he got real excited just because these things it's new, it's a new platform,
Right.
and he knew what these things are going to be capable of.
Right.
And so he got on YouTube and reached out and was like, "Hey, who's going to have one of the first ones? I want to get my hands on it." So I
Hmm.
reached out to him and he's like, "Come on down." So I came down from Indiana all the way down there to Florida to Palm Beach,
Right.
and I was only supposed to spend 2 weeks down there. Ken talked me into spending the 2 months
Come
almost,
too much. Oh,
two
shit.
months in Palm Beach. But I mean, it was December, January, and February.
Yeah. So
So I
those are good
mean,
months to be down here.
yeah, because I mean, honestly, right now in the middle of December, I'm surprised that I can even be outside right now just because it's normally 20, 30 degrees today.
Right.
So today it's actually like 50 something, so it's not real bad.
So it's not that bad. Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's
but being in Florida is 90 degrees, so it was way
oh,
better when
dude.
you first get your GT500 to be in Florida. So
Trust me, Miami, I've been here for 27 years now. I still don't even understand how I've adapted to that, like basically no season for, I mean, it's no seasons. It's just 1 month of nice weather, maybe, you know?
Right.
So like this, just 2 days ago, we finally hit 50s, and it's like, oh shit, we hit 50. That's it. We're not gonna get any lower than that. So that's
That's
just
cold
kind
for
of how
down
it is.
there.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cold, but and people act like they're crazy, man. It gets to 70, and people come out with like fucking, they look like they're going to, like Alaska. It's like, what the hell is wrong with these people? But that's what happens when you have 90, 100-degree weather all year round, and then a little bit of cold weather sets
Right.
in. People just go crazy.
Yeah,
But
in
that's really,
February when I left there, it was I think it got down in the 60s, and people were doing the same thing. They were just out there in their winter coats and stuff. I'm in my shorts, you
exactly.
know. But
I did
I'd
the
already
same.
been there for almost 2 months, so I felt almost acclimated. I was actually kind of cold at 60 degrees.
Right. Imagine. Yeah, you were kind of adapting to what we do here down here. I'm like you, man. I like the cold. I've never had a problem with. I mean, with cold weather, I love it. And obviously for the cars, supercharged cars, turbo cars, man, there's such a huge. I mean, it's called. That's why when the weather hits those degrees, people call it the cold weather. It's like crack for any force induction
Yeah, we call that
component.
boost weather. It's
Yeah,
boost weather
man. Exactly.
for
So
sure.
and I remember when I had the Terminator, it was the same thing. I mean, we were just like waiting for December just for that little bit of cold weather, and you'd go out and dude, instead of like with the Terminators especially, you'd go 2, 3 runs before you'd feel the heat soak.
Hmm.
And the second that, I mean, you could do 10, 15 runs, before you started feeling the timing getting pulled and because of the weather,
Sure.
the heat. But that's really cool, man. So awesome, dude. I can't believe it. Like I said, when you posted the picture, I'm like, holy shit. Let me ask you, Lee, have you ever been, are you like a diehard Ford guy? You're a diehard Chevy guy, or you're a diehard car guy?
I'm a car guy. I've been a
Okay.
Ford guy pretty much growing up, but not really a Ford guy. I've been a Mustang guy.
Okay.
Um, I've just always loved Mustangs growing up. I liked the classics. My dad and I were going to redo a '60s Mustang for my first car. That
67.
never happened, but
Right.
but that was the plan. I mean, I've just been a Mustang guy my whole life,
Awesome.
and don't get me wrong, like I love any platform that you can really make fast. So
Right.
like even like right now in my truck, I drive a 2019 Denali Sierra. So I mean,
Nice.
I'm not partial to Ford. I just I buy what I like.
Right. Yeah, I think that's very important. That's something a lot of the guests that I've had on, we kind of go over that, and it's something that I think now it's strange. You have, I don't know if it's more of a division. I think it's maybe less of a division, but there's still those people that are just like Ford, Chevy, and it's like, why don't you open up your brain a little bit? It's not.
Right?
I mean, I get it. They both all these manufacturers have their advantages and disadvantages.
For sure.
Um,
And
it's
I'll still be that guy. I'm like, I'll still poke fun at everybody else. Like
right.
I don't discriminate. I'll poke fun at everybody.
Yeah, exactly. I'm exactly the same way. But dude, that's awesome. So the Shelby, so you went from the Shelby, and now this thing is just so your plans are basically 13, 1200. This is going to be running on E85, and then I wanted to ask you the setup itself, as far as the internals, is it fully built? It has to be fully built, right?
So I'm actually getting ready to pull it apart because I mean I was told it's fully built. I was told it's a 416.
Okay,
Um,
that was my
but
next question.
but there's no paperwork on it.
Exactly.
So I will be pulling the motor, at least pulling the heads off.
Right.
I'll probably scope it first,
Right.
just to see if maybe I could tell if it's been built. But I'd rather be able to see, get under it, see the crank,
Right.
just see what's going on, and go from there. It's wintertime here. This is like 3, 4 months of downtime for us, so I've got
Awesome.
nothing but time.
You got the time, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, so
it's good.
I'll pull it apart. I'm probably gonna throw in the dyno beforehand just to get an 85 tune on it,
Okay.
um, and then just to kind of see what's going on, and then we'll pull it back apart, um, you know, and
Right.
just ensure it's ready for the big power.
Right.
I'm sure that even a stock LS3 will make 1,000 horsepower at least on a dyno.
All day long with
Yeah,
just a little bit of boost. So that's awesome. And so yeah, you want to make sure you can see maybe the rods and even the crank, no, but the pistons and the rods to see what they threw in there.
right. Yeah, and if it's not built, I mean, I'll be doing it, sending it to the machine shop and getting it done this winter.
Okay. Have you, well, with the Shelby, well, actually, no, that's a good question, actually. Have you, before the Shelby, did you ever go through a car where you actually had to build the internals with the setup that you went with?
So I did on my previous car that I said that I had on C16. It was a 2005 Mustang,
Okay.
and I blew the stock motor in that at like 32,000 miles,
What
and
happened? You were spraying?
No, it was turbo. I was one of the first 3-valve turbo guys,
Nice.
and just lifted ahead on it. It's
Right.
still just I run a completely stock bottom end at about 600 wheel on the 3-valve,
Nice.
and I don't know how much you know about 3-valves, but they don't really like that.
They don't.
Uh,
They never did.
so so I lifted ahead, blew a head gasket, and just destroyed that block. It was bad.
Did you? But you didn't. Yeah, but a
Um,
piston didn't go through the rod or anything, so it's not.
oh no, it did. Oh
Oh, it
no,
did.
a rod went through the block. It took out a piston. It was bad.
Holy shit.
Um, yeah, I think it just because with the boost and then water doesn't compress.
Of
So
course. So it's like
um,
fuck you. I'm expanding and goodbye.
yeah, I'm sure it steamed that cylinder and just
Yeah.
it went.
Yeah.
So I reached out. MMR ended up building me a short block for it, but I did everything else.
Nice.
I did. It was crazy. I did it on the floor in my garage, no
Hey,
lift,
dude.
anything.
Those are some of the best times and the worst times. I mean, if you're mechanically inclined and you can handle it and you enjoy it, I think most importantly, it's awesome because the
Yeah,
result you get to say like, oh, who built it? I did. Oh
right.
shit. Okay, I got a new level of respect for you because me and my friends back in the day growing up, like I said before, I got the Terminator. I had a friend of mine who had a Fox. We did something similar, dude. It was hilarious. He had a little Fox body, nothing crazy convertible. He wanted to do as much as he could at the time, and we had a friend of ours. Actually, he's probably the smartest guy I've ever met that had to do with mechanical engineering. He was top of his class here at UM. Dude, literally in his backyard with nothing, no cover, no nothing. It was actually in December, so it was cold. And we just, for 6 hours, we put in a cam. Um, what else did we do? I think we did long tube headers. We just did all the bolt-on shit.
Right.
And dude, at literally, like we had to test it. We finished around 5:30 in the morning, and we had to turn this thing on. And obviously, the it's open headers, like it's you know. So, like my friend's name was Raheem. I'm like, Raheem, we have to test this thing out. He's like, dude, we're gonna wake everybody for half a mile. I was like, I don't care, let's do it. So we we turned that fucker on. It cranked right over, no problems, and we shut it right off. And then around 6:30, 7 o'clock, we took it to go get like the headers welded to the exhaust that we had done for it. So it was fun. Um, he ended up falling asleep, like me, and it was me and Adrian just kind of doing most of the work. I mean, but it was fun, man. We still have videos of that shit, and it's those are some of the greatest times.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to do it, without a garage. This one, I get to at least. My buddy owns a big shop, and
Okay.
I get to use a lift.
Yeah.
Um, to
Yeah,
pull this, to pull the motor in this thing. So
it's definitely the smartest way to do it. You don't want to do it on the floor in your garage. It can be, you could find yourself getting a wrench and just beating the shit out of anything that you can find because it can get
right.
very frustrating. But cool, man. Well, let's go through the questions. You sent me some good questions, so we'll cover. I'm gonna shoot you your first question, and then we'll go over to my side.
Okay.
So kind of went into this, but the first question I gave you was how you came to the decision to get into the world of automotive modification, as well as the history of your car ownership throughout the years. So I think that's maybe we can cover first the ownership part, and then we'll cover the other part.
Okay. So you want to cover like the cars that I've owned throughout the years?
Yeah, like starting from the first high performance car that you had.
The very first one I had was an '85 Camaro. Actually, I
Okay.
take that back. My very first vehicle ever. So my dad, I grew up actually really kind of poor,
Okay.
but my dad had great credit, so that was good. So he took me over there. I kind of feel bad because I bitched a little bit, and he uh, felt bad, so he went over and he ended up getting a loan on this little '95 Ford Ranger Splash.
Okay.
And
Nice.
and that in the day, that was a really cool vehicle. Like everybody wanted one back in the day.
Yep.
So I was
I
like, dude, this
remember.
is awesome.
Yep.
And so I got it and um went over there and like he got the loan on it, but I was making the payments. And
That's a good deal. That's a
yeah,
fair
it
deal.
wasn't bad at all. Being 16 years old, I was grateful.
Awesome.
And I got it and I had no idea there was anything done to this thing. No idea whatsoever. And it was making a weird noise. So I was like, well, what the heck's going on? And I'd never even popped the hood on it. When I drove it off the lot, never popped the hood on it, never
Right.
done anything. And ended up popping the hood. Somebody had thrown a turbo on this
Nice.
2.3 4-cylinder Ranger.
That's awesome.
Um, and it ended up, it was like somebody took the SBO Mustangs,
Yeah, I
four
remember the
four
SEOs.
cylinder turbo Mustang.
Yep.
They took it. That was what it was. Is the turbo kit off of an SBO Mustang.
Yeah, so it matched up pretty good. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a good match.
And so that was my very first performance car, which I mean, it probably only made like 250 horsepower, but
Yeah, but still, 16 years old. Hey, that's a start.
yeah, I mean, and back then, I mean, the light truck, I mean, it was quick, like it was a very quick little truck. Um, and then I got rid of that. Well, I say I got rid of it, but actually I wrecked that,
Oh
and
shit.
I got an '88 Mustang,
Okay, nice.
and it had a 4-cylinder in it. And that didn't last very long. I ended up building a 347 with my dad in the garage,
Okay,
and
awesome.
threw that in there. Had that for probably 2 years, almost 2 years,
Okay.
and then bought an '85 Camaro that I was building as a regular drag car.
An IROC?
Yep.
Ah. The good old IROC days.
Yep. And then ended up. So my uncles all had race cars, like actual race cars,
Okay, like
and they did
NHRA
so.
dragsters or
They had some of them had dragsters, some of them had circle track, dirt track,
nice,
stuff like that. And
cool,
then so I got a 454 from one of my uncles for free. Um,
nice,
and then another one had a rotating assembly just sitting there.
right,
So we made it as a 496. And then another uncle had uh, a set of dart heads just chilling on the shelf. So he
lying
let me
there, yeah.
borrow those. Um, and the only thing I really had to
The
buy on that
Frankenstein
build,
motor, man, but that's a good size. A 490, that's a big fucking
it
motor.
has a 496. Yeah, it was a big motor. And then the only thing I really had to buy was I had a buddy who had an 871 blower sitting around.
Okay, nice.
And so I bought that. And then I had another uncle that had a couple of carburetors that worked for it.
Hmm?
And so through it all together. After all was said and done, I mean, the car made a little over 900 wheel. And this is back
In the
in
80s.
2000. No, I'm not that
Oh,
old, man.
2000.
2000. No, I'm only 37, man. Come
Oh,
on
you're
now.
30. Yeah, that's right. Me and you are exactly the same age. I'm going to be 37 now. So sorry, I
Uh,
threw you on the bus there, man.
yeah, like I was born in '83, bro.
What are you talking about?
But yeah, man. So that one, I mean, in the early 2000s, I mean, 900 horsepower for a street car, which
That
was
was a
unheard.
shit ton, dude. That
Yeah,
nobody had 900 horsepower in a street car. Nobody. Very
nobody. I
little.
mean, so I had that. Then I kind of got out of it for a little while.
Okay.
I bought a Probe, 93 Probe,
Okay.
and built that. That thing ended up being the highest horsepower 93 Probe in the world.
Holy shit. How much power?
It wasn't a lot. It made 600 and something, 612.
Yeah, that's definitely enough to be the highest horsepower one.
Yeah, but they didn't make any, so that there was no transmissions that you could buy or anything like
Yeah,
that.
there was nothing for that car.
So I mean, it was, the only thing you could do is throw together some Mazda parts to
Right.
make it a little bit stronger, but they were all still stock parts.
Awesome.
But I mean, it was definitely a contender when I built that. Um, then I've had a bunch of Mustangs over the years.
Right.
Some of them stayed pretty much stock, just bolt-ons and stuff,
Right.
nitrous.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Uh,
ask you any nitrous cars.
yeah. My last GT500 had nitrous on it.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
Uh,
That's right. You were spraying a 175, right? You told me.
no, it only had a 75 shot on it.
Okay.
I was out of fuel system.
Right. Yeah, but a
So
75 on top of the boost, that's all you need.
right. Yeah, and then I had my '05 Mustang. Put
Nice.
that back. Go back a little bit. I had another '89 Mustang. There was
Okay.
a 347 with nitrous,
Nice.
and it made like 700 a wheel.
Oh, fucking badass.
And then I had built the '05, and it was probably on the dyno. It made 1,036 at 26 pounds.
Wow.
We turned it up to 32 pounds. Never put back on the dyno. Um, you know, and then I would got
I
out of
mean,
it
that's
for
a
a
good amount
while.
of power, dude. That's a lot of power. 1,000 horsepower on that car is.
Yeah, that car, and that was still a manual, so it was a
Right.
handful. That car was a freaking handful.
Right.
Even with I had the best suspension that you could buy for those cars,
Yeah, but it's a
and
stick axle, so you can't do too much for that. I mean, it's gonna do what it's gonna do.
yeah, it didn't do the greatest. So,
Right.
I sold it. I got out of it, became a family man for a while, had a fiance, um, you
Boring.
know, did all that for a little bit, and then. I'm single now, so I was like, I'm gonna get something cool. And then they released the new GT500, and I was like, man, I gotta have it.
Right. So that's a nice jump because you went from literally, you said '05, right? 2005?
Correct.
So '05 to a brand new 2020 Shelby GT500. That's a nice jump.
Right. Well, and the thing is, so I bought the '05 and '08. So I mean, it's when I've had the vehicles, have always been like newer, but I've had that 05, man. I had it from 08 till 2000, probably 16, I think.
Okay, so that was probably your longest run car.
No, the Pro, man. I had it from 99 until, oh man, I didn't get rid of it until 2016.
Oh shit! So you had that for a while. Nice.
Yeah, I had that for 17 years.
Nice. Hey, if it was fun, you were having fun with it, that's what's important, man. You know.
What ended up happening is it broke and I was always having to fix stuff. So
Right.
it was always sitting in the garage.
Right.
And it wasn't worth anything to sell, so I just let it sit there.
Yeah, you just kept it.
And then I ended up putting it back together, fixing everything, and I sold it. Still only got like $7,000 out of it.
Dude, $7,000 out of a Pro, that's something to talk about.
I mean, but $7,000 out of a 600 horsepower car was.
No, I know that's not a lot.
That hurt a lot. I mean, I had $40,000 in the car at least.
Right. I was just gonna say you probably had 20, 30 into it. Yeah. Cool. And then so that's a nice collection, dude. That's a nice run of cars, and you kind of have been building yourself up, except for the other car that you said, that the 05 that had the 1000, but you kept at 1,000. You went from 1,000 to 1,000 with the Shelby, and now you're gonna have 1,000 or over 1,000 now with the C6.
Well, I think that the Shelby with nitrous was around 1,200.
1,200. Okay. So I mean, obviously you have a good amount of experience as far as what 1,000 horsepower. People, dude, I don't think people really understand what that number means. I mean, I know that you can go on YouTube, and especially today, you see so many 1,000 horsepower street cars. But dude, there was a time where it's like 1,000 horsepower on a street car. That was fucking like, that's NHRA numbers.
Right.
You know, there was 1,000 horsepower is no joke. And obviously, I know like companies like NHRA Racing that have made it very accessible for the exotic market, the exotic industry, which is, I salute those guys. Those guys are fucking those guys are badass. I mean, the last car that they just do, they're at 3,500 horsepower in their Hurricanes. It's just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, honestly, amazing. I would love to have one of those. That's a gold car. That's a gold car.
We all want a 3,500 horsepower Hurricane. Trust me, including myself. Oh, did you see the new Hurricane that they released now, the STO?
No.
Dude, it looks like, okay, do you know the Veneno, the Lamborghini Veneno?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like they grabbed portions of the Veneno, like it's got that fin that goes down the middle of the rear visor, of the rear window. And STO, oh my God, I'm going to shoot myself for not knowing this. STO stands for, I got to look this up. It's a specific built car they're going to make. I think it's going to be probably less than 200 units. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'll tell you what it stands for. It's pretty amazing, because it looks ridiculous. It looks like an Evo on steroids.
Okay.
Here, so I should know this already, man. The other day I was like, what the fuck? I didn't even know what STO was.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
It's pretty amazing. It goes back to their heritage. Hold on. STO stands for, should know that. Oh, there it is. Super Trofeo Omologata. So it's basically like a homage to their racing series, which is the Super Trofeo. It's fucking, dude, it's amazing. And it's going to have, I believe it's 700 plus horsepower. I'll tell you right now. And it's just, the car
what's
itself.
Crazy is what those things do with 700 horsepower.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Like that 700 horsepower is going to be, like a stock GT500 makes 760. But that car is going to walk. I think it'll absolutely, on a straight line, it'll walk that GT500.
Yeah. Well, the thing with them is the four-wheel drive system. So it's 631, but it's still, again, there's going to be some guys.
From a roll, the GT500 might do well. Right. But just from a dig, from any kind of stop, that's going to be a 9-second car.
Yeah, exactly, all day long. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah, it basically gets all they got they had the Performante, then they had the Evo, and they're like, okay, how do we make this even crazier? So that's where they came up with the STO. So it's absolutely amazing.
And what you're saying about the 1,000 horsepower thing, like imagine back in the day. Remember back in the day when 11-second cars were fast?
Yeah.
Now you have 9-second.
9 seconds, and they're not fast. It's like, 9 seconds is a standard. It's a new standard.
It is, absolutely.
And that's ridiculous to say, but that goes to show for the technology. I mean, I remember when I was in college, I actually wrote up a paper that really, it was something that I wrote up that had to do with the industry, where it's going, how far it's going to go, how far things are going to get pushed. And this is back with the Terminator days. You had the C506, which was not, the C506 was a transition to like Chevy trying to really start getting serious about making the Z06 just that much more competitive and more badass, and getting some more technology in there, and really making it into a car that could actually fight against all the exotics, you know?
Right.
And they did so with the C606. When the C606 came out, it was like, holy shit, this is a very, I mean, it was a very well engineered car. So it goes to show, like I said, the C6 you have standing now, I mean, in the background, dude, that car, the technology that went to building that, the engineering that went into just the C6 by itself as a platform is almost as big as a jump from the C7 to the C8, you know?
See, I didn't
Except
know
for the
that.
fact that C8 obviously is I mean, it is a supercar now, but besides that is what I mean. It's really an amazing transition, and to tell you the truth, the C606, dude, it's one of the best buys of the century. Um, you know, you can find them for like 20, 25, like maybe with 30,000 miles, even less. You can find them for $25,000. That's
I haven't.
ridiculous.
Yeah, around here you can't. There's no way. Up
No.
here, one with 30 in the 30,000 mile range, you're looking at mid 30s to almost 40,000 here.
Oh, around 40, yeah. I mean, it depends. You have to find that person that is kind of, okay, I got to sell this car now, and, you know, is
Right.
kind of doing it. But I had a
Like you
friend of
won't
mine,
find them in the 20s unless they have 80 plus thousand
80,
miles.
exactly, above 50, 60,000, correct. But even that, man, it's a 427. I mean, if the car, there was, I mean, you know how it is with car ownership, you know, you could have a 70,000 mile, you know, garage queen that literally will be much better car than a car that's got 20,000 miles that's beat the fuck out of.
Right.
So it's all about ownership and maintenance. But all right, so we're gonna hop over to my question. So you asked me about, okay, so you told me about tell me about this collection of race cars and supercars that you have for sale. It's a fantastic question. I'm glad you asked that. So basically, I've been a car guy probably like you and most of our listeners. I've been a car guy my entire life. I mean, literally, my first word when I was 3 years old was car before anything else, water, mom. So, you know, I've been a diehard car guy my entire life. I decided that, you know, going to racetracks, going to drag racing events, going to all the car events, you know, I started meeting some VIPs that had some really ridiculous, insane car collections. And I started deciding that, look, you know, some of these guys would come up to me, hey, do you know anybody that wants to buy my car? So that kind of grew into like, well, maybe I should start making a business out of this and start getting serious about it. So it's been about 6 years. AG Supercars, which is my other company, has been around for about 6 years. And slowly but surely, like I said, going to the Cars and Coffees now that have gotten just blown up all over the world. You start meeting some really amazing people and interacting with them at racetracks and at these events. And a lot of them sometimes they don't. It's convoluted because most of these guys, they're kind of divided. A lot of them, what they'll do is that they'll go down to a dealership and only trust the dealership to find them a real buyer. The other half will actually allocate people like me that just know the people that are looking for these cars, and we'll put two and two together, and we'll give them give everybody the ability to sell the car, buy the car, and you know, you can make a commission out of it.
Okay, so these are all allocations.
Yeah, these are all allocations.
They're not like you don't own the lot of cars. It's kind of what do you call that when they give you the car to sell?
Yeah, commission based, and it's basically it's one of those things where, yeah, I mean, I wish I had some of these cars, but unfortunately, I mean, some of these cars are I don't know if I told you, but like ridiculous stuff, like
what was the Porsche I saw on there? I can't
the
remember
917.
Maybe no, I don't think it was a 917, man. I think it was a 996, was like 1.5 million.
Oh, that's right. You're talking about the 993, the GT2.
Yeah, 993.
Yeah. That's a very special car. It's a 993 GT2 Evo. I mean, there's less than 100 of those in the world. There's also the RSR, the 3.8 RSR. I think you saw that one as well. That one is also close to 1.5. There's less than 45. There's literally 45 in the entire world. So
Okay.
I try to concentrate on the super, super insanely rare cars, because the thing is that in this industry, I don't know if maybe you've spoken to some people that have done this. Dude, it can get really crazy. What has happened is that technology has made it available for a lot of people to kind of just think that they're trying to be well, I hate the word, but broker, like a supercar broker.
Mhm.
And because of technology, it's so easy to share information and digital pictures of certain cars and this and that, and proof of life pictures. People get a little crazy and they think, oh yeah, I'm a broker, and they start trying to, they start putting this shit everywhere. They explode it. They try to put it on Instagram, they put it on Facebook,
Right.
and that doesn't do anything except burn you, burn the car. And that's kind of the thing, man. These guys that have these cars, these ridiculous collectors, dude, they're very private people. You know, they're
Right.
not trying to put it out there that they're billionaires or multimillionaires. They're very private, and they're just trying to make a sale without making too much noise.
Right.
If you don't want to be that person, then obviously, you know, most of the guys also, what we talking about, go to the dealerships or they go to the big high-end auctions. Um, Barrett Jackson, Mecum, and some of the pricing that's one of the things that kind of fucks with everything is the pricing can get really, it can get shot up to the sky only because there's this guy that's got, you know, $100 million in the bank about paying a tenfold premium for a car that he wants. So that's actually what drives up a lot of these prices on, like, let's say the hypercars, like the LaFerrari, the P1, the 918, the cars that are only meant for the VIPs. And the manufacturers have actually gotten very serious about limiting people that buy these cars. Like, I don't know if you know this, but with Ferrari, they're very specific. Like, they literally, you have to sign a contract when you purchase a car from them that for 2 years you are not allowed to sell the car.
Right.
And Ford
even
did the same
within that
for GT.
contract, man, they have like you can't modify the car either.
Right, you can't modify the car. It's very stringent. It's very, and I get it. So now you have manufacturers that are copying that formula. You have people like Aston Martin, even though they're not as bad as Ferrari. You have people like Porsche, that they don't go that crazy, but they still do tell you, hey, look, you know, you can't just buy this car for a profit because it's become more of an investing platform. You know, the LaFerrari, dude, it's crazy. I had a LaFerrari. It was a triple yellow car, very rare. I think it was a one of 4 or 5 that they made in triple yellow. And dude, it was crazy. The car went up to $9.5 million for an Aperta. That's a lot of money. You're talking close to McLaren F1 money. And I'm not saying that the LaFerrari is not technically worth 9.5. I mean, it's an absolutely amazing car, but it really isn't worth that much. That's just the price gap.
We had one here that, I mean, we sold it as like 2.5 million.
Yeah, that's like cheap.
Yeah.
That was
actually,
probably
I think it went to Florida actually. There's a black one, and like it was at a dealership here,
Right.
and like this dealership is so cool because you can go in there, and all these cars that they have for sale, they have them on display, and you can actually, it's like a museum. You can go in there and walk around, and you don't have to be purchasing a car. You just go in there. They just let anybody go in there and look around. Yeah,
sure.
It's cool.
It's nice to have dealerships like that because I mean most dealerships today they're not very they don't really, yeah, they're pretty welcome to everybody because sometimes you just don't even know, you know.
Right.
There's a couple of people out there. I mean, you know, multimillionaires. They try to literally, they'll dress like most normal people. Sometimes they'll dress like a bum on purpose,
right,
to kind of disguise the fact that they got so much money in the bank. And then so they can't be, well, I don't want to say racist, but they can't be discriminatory to any of these people that walk in.
Right.
But it's nice to have a dealership that welcomes people. Hey, look, you know, this is an amazing car. Anybody can come in and check it out. It's really nice. It's always nice to have dealerships that way. Yeah, but so that's some of the cars that I've dealt with. The 917 is the other one that I thought you were talking about. Yeah, the 917. That's a car that I'm still trying to find someone that'll pay the $30 million that they're asking for the car.
Oh wow! There's the 917. Yeah. Was that the race car?
That's the race car. Yeah, that's the car. Okay. It's the car that won Le Mans in 1970.
Right. That's what I thought. My cousin actually has an exact replica of one.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit! Like he built one, like a replica of a 917.
No, he didn't build it. He actually, there's a company in Michigan, that builds replica
race cars,
Porsches,
like vintage race cars. Wow.
Cool. He's got that one. He's got a this Porsche Speedster.
Nice.
Replica.
Those cars. Yeah, those are beautiful.
Super and nice. You know, he's got both of them, and they're both beautiful cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're exact replicas. I mean, down to like they in this place, you know, they actually replica everything from scratch. It's not like a fiberglass body; it's an actual metal body.
Nice. And what about is it a two-wheel chassis? Like as far as the chassis goes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's an actual functioning car. It's not just some, you know, shit like put together.
Oh yeah, no, it's an actual functioning. He can take it out and race it. What's crazy is you think, oh, it's a race car. These cars really aren't that fast.
Right.
The 917 is quite a bit faster than the Speedster, but I mean, that Speedster, I think you go out here and buy a Focus, and a Focus will probably beat in a straight line.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah, the speedsters were never meant to. But the 917, dude, that thing had 1,000+ horsepower back in the 70s.
Okay, I don't think his has that much. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's a ridiculous amount of. The thing with those cars,
it doesn't have an actual Porsche motor, you know.
Right.
So
what's it rocking, like a V8 or a?
It's a V8. I don't know what it is though.
Okay. Yeah, that's usually what, I mean, with replicas, that's usually what you would do is, throw something with some good power and torque and, to have fun with. But
I'm sure it makes it 600-ish.
Yeah, but still, it's a cool car. It's, I mean, when people see it, probably they freak out. Oh my God, it's a fucking 917. Holy shit.
I'm sure. I mean, most people don't know what it is. They say they don't know what it is.
Yeah, the 917, you have to, I mean, people that know. People that don't, they'll be like, oh, what is that? I have no idea. There's, you look at it, you're like, well, it's obviously a race car, but what race car?
30 million for a car. That's got to be one serious collector.
Well, I mean, the thing with these cars, man, is that you think of 30 million. That's like such a crazy amount of money. But then you have to take into account everything. You have to take into account this is a piece of racing history. Again, car that won Le Mans 1970, and there's people out there.
This is the actual one from Le Mans.
Oh yeah, this is the car that won Le Mans in 1970.
Okay, that's why it has a price tag. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
So the value of that's only going to go up. I mean,
no. Yeah. Like, for example, the other ones, there was a couple of famous ones. There was one that Steve McQueen actually raced it in the movie Le Mans, and that car sold for, I think it was 5, 6. It was close to 7 or 8, but it wasn't that high. And the race cars that are out there that are on the market, they're in that range, from 5 to, some of them can go up to 12, but 30 million, it's like, you better have something very special with this. And it's chassis 4. It's the car that won the Mans 1970. So that's kind of asking, it's like, okay, we'll put a $10 million price tag because it's a 917. It's one of the most pristine, well-kept 917s of all of them. And then we're going to add 20 million because it's a piece of racing history. So,
right. And we actually have a guy here found sitting just in a junkyard, one of 2 of the original Ford GT supercars from 66. This is actually a 66, I believe. Ford GT, but this one is one of 2 that had an all aluminum body.
Holy shit! That's worth like millions.
It's worth millions, absolutely. Yeah. It's up there at 20 million probably.
Yeah.
The other one doesn't exist. The other one got wrecked, destroyed. So this is one of one in existence.
What happened to the car?
Well, he completely restored it.
Okay.
And it now is sitting in his collection. I mean,
holy shit. Do you know the guy?
I know of him.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know him personally.
Right. Maybe we could maybe, have him on the podcast. That'd be amazing to have him on the podcast talk about the car. That'd be awesome.
He's kind of private. I mean, I can reach out. I actually know someone who is friends with him, so cool. I can reach out and see if we can make that happen. But I can't promise anything.
No.
But the thing is, it's absolutely freaking ridiculous. And the reason why they actually had it on the test track over there at Le Mans, but they didn't use these as race cars because they went to the 427. Right. And this one has a 289 in it. But this 289 makes like 600 horsepower.
Yeah, it's a race motor. That's awesome. And when was it a barn find? It was a barn find.
No, it was completely trashed in a junkyard. He said he's seen shit. So the story is he was going through this junkyard looking for something for a different project he had, and seen the headlight, and I was like, man, what is that? Right. And started uncovering this car, and that's what it was.
Wow, dude, that's a fucking
and he's
amazing
had it
story.
It's been in restoration for like 10 years.
Yeah, it's not easy to restore the car because of the parts.
No, so every part had to be handmade.
Right.
And it was all done by somebody who knows how to properly restore these things.
Right.
Because I know you're in the stuff. There's grading and all that stuff.
Oh yes. And there's only a certain amount of like for the 917, the same thing. There's only actually 2 living techs right now. Right. 2 living techs, and one is I think he's in his 80, almost 90 years old. So that guy's gonna go, and he's been training his son to do the work that he's been doing. So it's I get it. It's
right. And I'm sure. I mean, he probably has 2 million in the resto. I mean, I'm sure.
Wow, that's amazing, dude. That's an amazing find, especially at a junkyard. I'm surprised the people at the junkyard weren't like, oh,
how would they not know?
Yeah, well, some of them, you have to understand, some of the people that work at these places, they're not car people. They're just, oh yeah, it's a piece of junk. Here you go.
That's crazy.
which is crazy. But that's just like, do
And
you
motor,
remember?
everything was intact. Everything was there.
Holy shit! So it wasn't just the body.
No, it
So
wasn't just
he,
the body. Yeah.
wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it'd be amazing to. I mean, I know that the GT40s, the original GT40s, they go in that price tag. I mean, they go in that price range. Well, they can go from upwards to five, like the Daytona coupes. Those are in the fives. And depending on the amount of race hours that they had, the drivers that drove them, that's kind of what dictates whether it's a higher price car or a lower price car.
Yeah, the estimated value on this one's 15 to 20 million.
That's ridiculous.
It's up there. It's up there with the three that won Le Mans.
Right.
It's up there with the price of those.
Right. Yeah, there was a lot of replacement cars that basically fit in that category as well that are not worth five, but they're in the, they're close to a million just because it's an actual authentic GT40 replacement car,
Right.
which is just ridiculous. Cool, man. So let's I'm gonna switch over here. We're gonna go to the next question. So you had asked me where, actually no, this was my question for you. Where your car love and passion started. And oh wait, no, hold on, wait, we're skipping over something. So I forgot to ask you. So the decision to kind of get into the automotive modification world, you kind of told me. I mean, since you were growing up, what was there anything special? Like, was your dad also into obviously cars and high performance cars?
So my dad wasn't really, but like I said, I have a lot of uncles. Like
Yeah,
in my
they
family,
were
we had like I think I have started out with 15 aunts and uncles.
nice,
So there's a lot of
big family.
yeah, it's a big family. So I had at least six aunts and uncles that raced. So when I was really, really little, I got to go to the track. My dad would
Yeah,
take me to the track and watch him race.
nice.
But I didn't really get into cars like really hardcore until I was a little bit older. And I had a cousin who was a little bit older than me that had a Camaro
Mm,
that we took to the drag strip. He let me drive it on the drag strip when I was like 13 years old, and
nice.
I was hooked. Like, don't get me wrong, like I liked cars before that, but I wasn't like into like, oh well, I need to get a car, I need to modify, I need
Yeah,
to be fast until I got to drive
yeah.
this Camaro, and then it was
The
all over from there.
the the adrenaline spike hit you, and that was it. It was, you were
Yeah,
hooked. Yeah.
absolutely.
That's usually what I mean. I mean, people. It's funny because some people don't understand. I remember in high school, man, I had this. People always knew that I was a car guy, a huge car guy, and all this stuff. I was this fucking dumb bitch. I was like, I don't even know how we got into the conversation, but she's like, "Oh, you'll grow out of it." I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking? Grow out of what? Like, this is part of my life. Like, what are you talking about?"
Right.
And the bitch was like, yeah, she was like a crazy, one of these back in 90s, Britney Spears. She was crazy about it. She was obsessed, literally, with Britney Spears. And so I said, hey, let me ask you a question. Are you ever gonna get over Britney Spears? She's like, no, how could you say that? I'm like, exactly. So shut the fuck up. So it's a passion. People that have that real passion. It's a part of your life. It's not something that you're
Right.
doing for one specific reason. It's just something that it's just. And now, dude, I think that we're living in probably the most interesting time as far as all cars, like the entire industry, because we're getting close to this point where I remember watching Top Gear around 8 years ago when they were still not the Grand Tour and all this stuff. And Jeremy Clarkson was talking about like, oh, it was one of the last Vantage the last V12s that Aston Martin was going to put in their Vantage. And he was like scared. He was like, well, not scared, but he was worried that, hey, this might be the last naturally aspirated V12 we're ever going to see, that the world's going to see. And you know what, man? We've kind of pushed back, which I'm glad. The manufacturers have pushed back and said, no, 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 no. Like, we're going to adapt. We're going to do hybrids, like with, small electric motors that will and it actually turned out for the best because the electric motors that they installed on the P1, the 918, the LaFerrari, and the newer cars that are coming out, all they're doing is eliminating that little bit of lag, turbo lag that some of these cars might have.
Right.
So, or even just giving you instant torque and power. So it turned out for the best. I think that, I mean, I don't know if you were like this, but I remember when I found out that the LaFerrari, the P1, and the 918 were all going to be hybrids. I'm like, this is so stupid. Why are they doing this? And then I had to understand, like, wait a minute. There's regulators. There's governments that are pushing these cars to get a certain amount of gas mileage,
Right.
miles per the gallon before they can be okay to sell. So I said, I get it. This is the manufacturers that are just trying to adapt to the new rules that are being
Yeah,
implemented.
I don't know how the GT500 got around that because that thing was horrible on gas.
Horrible gas mileage.
That thing was the worst car I've ever had on gas. Actually, I take that back. My IROC was, but I
Yeah.
was a big block and blower. But this thing, for a modern car, garbage.
What would like 15,
Not
20?
even. I mean,
Not
on
even
the highway, on the highway,
on the highway.
it was horrible, man.
But with the 8-speed transmission, seriously?
It's 7-speed, but
Oh,
yeah,
7. I'm sorry. I thought it
yeah,
was 8.
7-speed. The Corvette's got the 8-speed,
Oh, that's right.
but yeah, the 7-speed. Even with the 7-speed,
It,
cruising through town, you'd get, if you're lucky, 12.
12. Hmm.
You
But that's
know,
strange because they have so much the technology with the cam timing systems that they've developed. You'd figure, like I know with the Z06, the C7, they have I think it's about if you're under 3,500 RPM, it might be 3,500. I think it's 30 from whatever 3,500 RPM. It's got I forgot the name of the system. It's basically cuts off fuel to 4 of the cylinders.
right?
So
Cylinder deactivation,
right, that's right. Cylinder
COD,
deactivation. That's correct.
displacement on demand.
Yeah. So the Ford has it, right? The Shelby had it, didn't it?
No,
Oh,
no,
it doesn't. Okay.
no.
Gotcha.
So it doesn't have anything like that. It doesn't have anything. But and the reason being is because with the power that they wanted to make, they had to lower the compression,
Right.
and a lower compression motor is the reason why it got horrible fuel.
Yeah, horrible gas mileage. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tech that's going into, especially, I think that one, actually, that's something I had to ask you. For example, like with the C6 and the C7, they have direct fuel injection. Does the Shelby G500 direct fuel injection?
No,
It doesn't. I think that's something that they're going to have to probably adapt to because
no.
that
So
would
the
give them,
GT, the Mustang GTs
yeah, the GTs have it.
have it, but
Right.
yeah, no, they didn't do it on the Shelbys, and I can understand why. Just because they knew that people were going to modify it, and that's the limiting factor on all these LT1 motors, the LT series of motors in general,
Hmm.
is just the fact that their fuel systems are so expensive. So people will modify them until it comes to having to do the fuel system,
Right.
because you're looking to do a proper fuel system on one $5,000 to $7,000.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
That's like what you would put on a race car. So that is a lot of money. Yeah, it's gotta. I think that Ford. I'll tell you this. Not to talk shit about Ford because I've never been a Ford or Chevy guy. I love both, but I think Ford is really slacking a lot in. I don't know what they're doing. I think that they're kind of freaking out, especially now with well, maybe not because the Mustang it sells so much. But I think that they better come up with a solution to try to make a product, a car that's going to compete with the C8. And I don't think that they have anything up their sleeve at this point.
to compete with the base C8, the GT500 competes with it fine. In a straight line, it's faster, road course. So it depends on the road course. On a small, like no straightaways, very intricate course, the
Mhm.
C8 shines. It is better at that.
Right.
But when you go on any kind of bigger course, I mean, the GT500 just shines and it just destroys it.
Oh, no, I know. But what I'm saying is that they need to come up with a supercar platform that could be
Okay, I see.
attainable for the masses. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that they need to really, because it's a big difference. It's a
I
big
really don't
difference.
think they have any interest in it.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't think well, they obviously they have the 4GT, which is but that's not attainable. That's, right
Well,
now, a used 4G, like a secondhand 4GT is like a million, million two, million one.
if you can find them
So
that low, that's pretty cheap.
exactly. I mean, that's, I mean, the Heritage one is, I think, beyond 1.3, 1.4, and those are rare anyways. So, but,
Right.
I don't know. Like, they have to, like you said, I don't think they care, but I think that they need to start caring because the C8, man, really has exploded and really put some waves in the supercar world.
Yeah, I think the reason why the C8s exploded so much is just because it is such a radical platform. I
Mhm.
mean, the Corvette just has. I mean,
Right.
everybody growing up seeing a Corvette on the street, and I was like,
Wanted one.
that's my dream car.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks like a supercar.
Yeah.
And it's a supercar that can be easily purchased.
Right.
I mean, you can buy one for what, 60,000?
Yeah. You can get it for 60 grand. I mean, that's bare base, but you can get one for 60 grand.
Right. And I mean, granted, on the base C8 doesn't have nearly the options that the base GT500 has.
Right.
But you're still getting a whole lot. You're getting a C8 for
Yeah.
$60,000.
Yeah.
So
You're
I
getting
mean,
a
I can
mid-engine
see,
platform car.
yeah, you're getting a supercar really
Yeah.
for $60,000. And I can see the appeal in it, but I don't see. I think Corvette will have that market covered. I don't
Right.
think Ford. There's not enough money in that market for Ford to get into it.
I don't know. I'll tell you, if I was working at Ford and I was one of these guys at the decision-making departments, I would tell them, hey, look, guys, what we should do, we have our, and I get it. They have the F-150, which is their biggest. I mean, the F-150 still is their bread and butter. The Mustang, even though it's a performance car, is part of their bread and butter. But they need, in my opinion, because they have the engineering. I mean, look, they did the 4GT, and I don't. I had a lot of pushback with the 4GT because I love the way that everything about it is amazing except one thing, the V6, the EcoBoost. Now I understand why they did the EcoBoost. I understand why they went with that platform, but they have the R&D money that they could have done just a small and a V8 and just as a lightweight, racing motor that could have been put into that platform, and they just didn't do it. I get why they didn't do it, but I think that they need to. I don't know. In my opinion, I think they really need to come up with something that can at least something that would be that. Because it's either them or I don't think Dodge. Like Dodge, I don't think is ever going to come up with anything.
Yeah, they just build big, bulky cars. They don't
Right.
care about building something light and lightweight.
Right. And Dodge is owned by.
Think about the V6s. You would think so. Being a V6, you would think the car would sound like crap. But
Oh,
being
no,
down there in Miami,
really good.
I know you've heard a lot. I mean, even like the first one, I actually got to sit in. I broke some drag time down there from Miami where you're at, and I actually met him when I first got to Florida. We raced my GT500 versus Ford GT, and that car sounded amazing. Like for a V6, you would never expect a car to sound like that.
Right. No, it sounds. I've heard plenty of them. They do sound really. I mean, it doesn't sound like a V6. It sounds like a growly. Almost you could say that it gets close to that growly, like a small block V8 kind of,
Yeah,
but
I would.
It's missing just that little bit, it's missing that I think it's just missing those two cylinders, and it'd be nice to I think that Ford should somehow come up with a formula. They have plenty, like for example, what they did with the they supposedly brought back the fastback, but they didn't. It's just a GT with some body kit parts on it. They rebranded the 5.0 as a fastback, and it's not a fucking fastback at all. It's a piece of garbage that's just rebranded, and they're charging like 20,000. I think it's 25,000-30,000 on top of the regular 5.0 or even a Shelby GT350.
I haven't heard anything about this. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I was like, Ford's coming out with a fastback, and immediately went on Google and I looked at it. I'm like, this is not a fucking fastback. Like, this is a joke. So I think that, I don't know, they're kind of losing some traction, and I think they really better get with it because, like I said, Chevy with the C8, I salute them for that, what they did. Now the Z06 is going to come out next year. That's going to be groundbreaking, and then you're going to have the Z01, which will hopefully finally be called the Zora, and that'll be.
I'll let it be known right now. I have a deposit on a local dealership's first allocation for the C8 Z06. So
you do?
I do, yes.
Okay.
So that'll probably be they haven't even actually announced a release. Haven't announced they're even doing one. But if they do, I have a deposit on one. So
awesome.
So
what you'll do is if you get the Z06 and the perfect ratio, you're gonna have to get someone to race your C8 against your C6. That'll be sick.
I don't think that the C8 that won't be a very fair comparison.
It won't, but it'll be awesome to see the C6 just destroy it.
But I do have a friend who just bought a 2020 GT500.
Okay.
And he is planning on keeping it mostly stock. So that'd be probably the first race I do with it.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great. That'd be
a good race.
I haven't seen too many people do that.
Well, right now, the GT500, if you do a C8 versus GT500 and from a roll, it's just not even a comparison car.
What are we talking about? I haven't seen too many videos. Like a one car, maybe half a car length, a car and a half.
You're talking like
2-3 cars.
Bus links.
Really?
It's such an insane amount of difference between a stock GT500 from a roll.
Right.
So like 0 to 60, the C8 wins all day long.
Right.
Just because that mid-engine design, weight over the rear tires.
Yeah.
And it's lightweight. It does 0 to 60 really well. But if you're doing, let's say like a 50 to 150 mile an hour, which is what most of these street rolls are.
Right.
It's bus links. It's such a big deal.
That's a big difference. That's a huge. Well, I mean, it's a boosted V8. I mean, but again, the C8 weighs less, so it's a nice comparison. It's a nice, battle.
I mean, it's a 500 horsepower, 3,500 pound car.
Yeah, 30. Yeah.
And maybe it was closer to 3,300. I'm not sure.
Well, the C8 is, yeah, it's closer. It's a little bit less than 35. It's around that 3,300, around 3,300. So it's a nice weight. You know, it's close to that 3,000 mark, and the 3,000 mark I think is, that's why I think the C606 was such, and the C6 platform was such an amazing platform because of its weight.
Yeah, this thing weighs like 3,300 pounds as it sits.
Yep.
So.
But yeah. Here, I'm going to go to the next question. So we were, so yeah, we kind of went over it, you know, where your car love and passion came from, your family, your big family, and your uncles and stuff kind of, you know, brought you to the racetrack. So that's how you kind of got into it. I think most of us, we follow that same type of situation. I'm going to go to the second question you asked me. So who's the closest person you've had on the podcast? Well, I've had some pretty awesome people on here, but I have to say that one of the milestones for me, which was my first guest, the steak from Top Gear was just, we all grew up, you know, I watched Top Gear my whole life, and to have, you know, he was, remember, there was a couple of different steaks throughout the times. Right. From the beginning of the show. There was, in the beginning, they had the one that was wearing the black race suit, and then they switched to the white race suit. And they had several race car drivers. That was the whole appeal, that nobody ever really knew who the Stig was. So it could really be any race car driver. They had rally drivers. They had Formula One drivers. I think at one point, I don't know how too much they used him, but I know they had Michael Schumacher as the Stig, you know. But Paul Gerard was the guy who I interviewed, and it was just, he was on there for 8 years. It was just literally an honor. And the guy was so, he was like me and you right now, just talking shit, just totally grounded, super cool, man. Total gearhead. Obviously has had one of the most amazing jobs that we all wish we could have, you know. I asked him how hard it was. That's usually the question he gets. How hard was it to actually qualify? And he said that it was no joke. You know, it was no joke. He was facing some very competitive drivers. A lot of them wanted this position, this job, and you know, he was just the guy that made. He was the guy that was very super dedicated. It's funny because when you talk to him, I didn't know this obviously, but before speaking to him, but he actually was supposed to. His goal was to race Formula One, like most of us. You know, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a Formula One race car driver as well, but. He told me, he's like, you know, in his opinion, he said he wasn't dedicated enough. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I was like, come on. He's like, yeah, I wasn't, you know, I see it that if I would have given it just that much, 20% more, there could have been a chance. And something that I've always looked into in Formula One is that you really have to, it doesn't matter how amazing, there's some amazing drivers out there, man, that are not even race car drivers, you know. Me coming from the street racing world, such as yourself and a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, dude, there's a lot of really, people that have the talent in their genes, in their blood, and they don't have the access to it. They don't have all the money that you need to go professionally racing.
For sure.
They don't have that opportunity. So he said, you know, this is something me and him talked about. He said, nope. He said, I can tell you that's not what it is. You just weren't dedicated enough. You just didn't want it bad enough. I'm like, no. Trust me, I wanted it bad. He's like, no, you didn't. You know, if you wanted it bad enough, you would have sold this is what he said. You would have sold your house. You would have sold this. You would have slept in your car. You would have had to, if you needed to, sleep for 1 year outside the racetrack. And I'm like, I kind of bumped heads with him a little bit there. I was like, I disagree. I'm sorry. I think that there's a lot of people in the racing world, especially Formula One, who are there just because they have the money, not because they have the talent. I personally have a couple friends of mine that were in the karting world, and they know people like that are in Formula One. You know, I think Verstappen, not to bring him down at all. I'm not saying the kid doesn't have talent. We all know he's got talent. But now, this is something I was talking to my friend about, which is really funny. I don't really follow Formula One. I haven't followed it for about 8 years now, 10 years. When they dropped the V8s, I said, I'm done. Like V6 twin turbos on Formula One, this is stupid. And he explained to me the other day, he says that because Lewis Hamilton got COVID. So because he got COVID, he's not allowed to be racing right now. So they put supposedly like a run-of-the-mill guy as a seat holder for his car. And that guy is doing times that almost not even Lewis Hamilton was doing. So what does that tell you? It's the car. It's like 90% the car or 80% the car. You know, to be a Formula One driver, I think the main thing that you need is stamina, because that you do need to hold all the G forces. But if you have that, man, get behind the wheel of the Formula One. The car's going to do a shit ton of work for you.
Oh, for sure.
So,
And I would agree with you. There's a lot of drivers that are there just because their daddy's rich. You know, they can
yep,
afford to be there.
yep,
But I would agree with him in the fact that if you really, really, really want it, like, dude, when I started my business, I did the same thing, man. I slept in my fucking car.
right.
I put everything I had into starting my business, and just because that's what I really, really wanted. I
Right.
didn't want to work for somebody else. I didn't want to make somebody else money. I wanted to make myself money. So,
Right. That's a
I did the
fantastic.
sacrifice for like 6 months. I ended up, well, three months of that was sleeping in my car, and then I went and I sacrificed. I just got a small apartment. I had a 1-bedroom apartment,
Right.
and barely I ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every freaking night just to make sure
Right.
that I had what I needed to get my business rolling. Every
Run
bit
the
of money that
business.
every bit of money that I made in it, I put right back into. I invested it back into the business.
Lee, what? Just so people know, what is your? I was going to ask you your business, just so everybody knows when they hear it, they can look you up.
Right now, my biggest portion of my business is I own a company called Media Stars. We do internet TV sales, installs. We do whole home security, as well as like whole home automation. We do sales and installs for that.
Awesome. So basically, installing appliances, technology, TVs,
No, we don't install like any appliances. No TVs or anything like that. We do just like for
home
one.
security.
Oh wait, home security. We do that through ADT Brinks.
Nice.
We do internet through like Frontier, Xfinity, any major brand you could think of. I have a contract with them, as well as TV service, DirecTV, Dish Network, all those.
Awesome.
And I do whole home automation. So, like let's say everything with your security system, you get everything on one thing, like all your lights, your
Right.
TVs, your whole home being automated. We do that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's huge today. That's especially with smartphones, having the ability to have the software and the applications to kind of join everything together, and you could, turn on your AC and control things in your house like from China,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
is pretty
Absolutely.
amazing. Very cool. Hey man, I give you a lot of credit. That's very hard. I'm also, me and you, in the same boat. We're both business owners. I know how hard it could be, and I mean, I understood what he meant by that, but it just, like for example, like if I would have been born, or any of us would have been born in a, I mean, it's crazy the amount of money you're talking about with Formula One. Formula One it's stupid, is what it is the amount of money that goes into it. Like you're talking, if you wanted to, like if me and you wanted to go into Formula One right now, right? Right? Just by paying ourselves way, which you can do. Like you can buy yourself into Formula One. You're talking about like you need 50 million in the bank.
Oh wow.
Like you need 50 million to seriously go, hey, you know what? I want to go racing for 1 year. You would need no less than 20 plus $1 million to put into just to go racing, not to be competitive, not to win, just to show up there and be in a car. So and then you have the pushback from the industry itself. It's a very tight knit of people, these oligarchs and Formula One people, and I'm not saying that I want to talk shit about them, but a lot of them, man, there's these people that they're very any newcomers, anything like that, they want to just, oh no, who the fuck are you? They're not very welcoming people. Um, there's a very tight knit group of people that are just, they're in their little bubble circle, and it's hard to break through that circle. But you do have teams like Haas, excuse me, that broke in, and Red Bull, and so the sport is changing, and it's been constantly changing. One thing that I didn't like, and I kind of have to swallow well, not the shit that I was talking about it, but when they introduced that halo on the Formula One car, which is meant for protection,
Mm-hmm.
I called it the vagina. I literally was like, oh yeah, they installed the vagina Formula One. Just a couple weeks back, there was this huge accident with this guy. If that wasn't there, I mean, he would have been cut in half.
Oh
So
wow.
I get why it's there, and I understand that. And when accidents like this happen, we kind of learn like, hey, look, it's a good thing that it was the air. Yes, I don't want anybody going to Formula One to go get into an accident where they have to, they die, or get a hand removed from their body or anything like that. I get it. or their head cut off or that. But the thing is that there was always an allure. Like that's why I talked to this with the Stig, and we talked about how Formula One and even Le Mans, and even Can-Am, which is my favorite racing series, which is what the 917 is. It was a Can-Am car. There was a time, man, when racing was like the safety technology in the car was a joke. These guys had the biggest balls. These were brave fucking badass. Just like, I mean, you could tell how passionate they were about going out there and being competitive. And I think that Formula One, with its technology, with a safety technology, every year they would push, push, push for certain things. Um, I just see it kind of like I think it's too much, I think it's a little too much. I think that there's supposed to be an element of danger to it, because then, when you put all the safety to it, it's like, like what? It's starting to lose its like, not its respect, but the respect that I had for the drivers is kind of like, yeah, well, put me in the car too. I'll do it too. Like I'm not.
It's kind of like the NFL right now with all the
Yes.
safety rules and all that stuff they have going. It just made football not nearly as fun to watch.
Yes, I totally agree. I mean, I get it. We don't want any of these guys like having brain hemorrhages just because they, were doing football for 10 years. I get it. But there was plenty of guys that did do it when they were wearing leather helmets and they didn't have problems. But that's not to say that not everybody's going to be as lucky as them. So
Right.
I get it. Like I'll take a step back, and I will say that the vagina, I get it. It did serve its purpose, which is great. I'm glad that guy didn't cut in half. But the mistake that the guy did, though, if you watch the footage, it's ridiculous. The guy literally he banked to the right. He shouldn't have banked to the right. There was a guy right next to him, and that he touched his wheel, and then that kind of shot him into the straight into the wall. If you ask me, what should be done if you want to make things safer like that in these crash points, like where they have the hardest turns, they should put like something that would, if a car does go into it, like not have a piece of aluminum there. They should have something else there that would protect the car from,
Like a lot of these
both.
road course stuff, they have tires and
Exactly. That's what I'm
like
saying.
that.
Yeah. But even that, sometimes tires. I mean, you're talking about, these cars are doing 200 miles per hour.
Oh
A
yeah.
tire at 200 miles per hour, it's gonna hurt, but at least it's not gonna kill you, and it's not gonna damage the car that much. But, anyways, so yeah, I'd say that that's probably one of the most interesting people. But I've had great guys. I've had people like such as yourself that are just diehard car guys. Um, but yeah, I'd have to say that's probably definitely I mean, that was just a milestone for me. I couldn't believe it. Like when I was talking to him, like, dude, I can't believe I'm talking to the fucking Steak. Like, this is crazy. But it was really cool to have him on. And for 3 hours, we talked, and he actually taught me some stuff that I didn't know at all. He told me that one of the reasons that these drivers back in the 70s and the 80s, who they were, which is something I did not know, a lot of these drivers that became race car drivers, really good ones, were fighter jet pilots that had just come out of World War II. And they had this need, like they had done such crazy shit that nothing meant that much to them anymore. Nothing could excite them that much anymore, So they were like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll go race cars.
There you go.
So that's kind of it kind of filled the gap that was there from all the other crazy shit that they had done in World War II, which is, I didn't know that. It was pretty amazing to find that out.
I kind of go back on what you were saying about, with the meet, they're talking to the Stig and everything. That was one of the things that, man, that GT500, it afforded me, Ken, I've known Ken for a while. So I started out with me getting to go down there and hang out with him. Even if it was just a 2 weeks, I was like, this is sweet, because he,
Right.
in the Mustang community is kind of a celebrity. And while I was down there, I got to Brooks from Drag Times,
Awesome.
the TRC crew.
Oh, you got to meet them all then.
Yeah, like I got to
Oh,
meet
shit.
the whole crew while I was down there. They invited me, like I got a private invite to their private track rental.
Okay, awesome.
And I'm out there with all these like, really rich guys and meeting all these other people with my, GT500.
Right.
And then while I was down there, that dude in blue, are you familiar with him?
That dude in blue, I don't think I've heard of him, no.
He does. I mean, he's on YouTube. He's got like 1 point some million subscribers
Right.
or something. And he does car reviews.
Nice.
He just gets, and then it's not like he doesn't do the stock car reviews. He does
Right.
modified car reviews.
Right.
And so he reached out to me, and I stopped by and got to hang out with him for a day.
Awesome.
And that was on my way back from Florida, and then on my way back too, I got to meet Stang Mode,
Nice.
Demonology, and Mod to Fame, all YouTubers.
Wow.
hung out with them. We all went to a track and raced the cars against all our cars against each other. And
So that's an amazing experience. I mean, yeah, that's
yeah,
really
it has been insane. Like all these big YouTubers that I never would have thought I would have met, and
right,
I've watched on YouTube, not growing up in the last couple of years.
right.
And then my most recent one, Street Speed 717.
Oh, you got to meet him.
Yeah, I went out and raced his ZR1, the blue ZR1.
Oh shit! I gotta watch all these, dude. I gotta watch. I didn't even know you had done that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so
We,
I went out, drove out to Pennsylvania and raced his ZR1. The only problem with that one is, in person, dude, that dude is the most humble person I've ever met in my life. Like for
right,
being a well-off guy,
right.
he's fairly young. He's only late 20s.
Like, yeah,
Like he's like 27 years old, and he's super laid back. Bought me dinner and stuff. Like I ended up hanging out for like 2 days.
that's awesome.
And but then when he made his video, it was not even close to what
Was it a
actually
different person?
broke
It was a
down.
completely different
Yeah,
person.
oh yeah, just because he was modest, and in person he was like, man, he's like, I've never been beat before. This car is definitely faster than my car. Blah blah blah. And then when he made the video, because let's rewind a little bit. He
Okay.
said he wanted to race, but he wanted to do a couple without the nitrous and a couple with it, just to show the difference,
Right.
what it would do with and without the nitrous. And normally I don't give somebody a no nitrous pull. You get
Right.
the whole thing, or you
Yeah,
don't
bring
race.
race what you brought, right?
Right. So I mean, and he won the 2 races that we done without nitrous.
Okay.
And then it actually may have been 2 or 3 races. I don't remember.
Right.
But I knew I was going to lose. I didn't. I had no thought that I would ever win without the nitrous.
Right.
And then when we raced with nitrous, we actually raced 5 times with it, and I won 4 out of the 5 times. One time I spun real bad.
Okay.
And obviously, spinning 8 win.
Right.
Spinning 8 winning. So, I lost that one. And I took the loss. I was like, cool. But he's like, damn. He's like, that fucker is fast, blah, blah, blah. Give me all these props. And then when it came down, he made his video. He only posted, I think, 3 of the nitrous passes, 3 or 4 of the nitrous passes, and then the 2 or 3 non-nitrous passes that he won. Right. And he made it. He's like, well, we both won the same amount of times. So
that's not cool. That's
and then
not
he's
cool.
like, and one of them, he's like, I think I won that one, but he says he won. But what do you guys think? He's like, and then he claimed his title. He's like, I'm still the king. He didn't beat me. So that's still the fastest one. And I'm like,
that's not cool.
No, I was like, what happened to these other 2 races?
Right.
I mean, we're still cool. Like, I still talk to him and everything, but I was like, man, that's not cool. Like,
that's not cool. He should have at least, he could have said that, but at least, in my opinion, I would have. I mean, I'm not that person. I'm exactly what you hear me right now talking to you. This is who I am. There's no difference between my podcast. No. That's bullshit. That's like two-faced stuff. But he could have at least, if he was going to do that, he could have at least put the 2 races where you won. Like what
I won the 4 out of 5.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Passes. Yeah, he should have put all those up there. He didn't.
That's
yeah. So
well, I think maybe listen, maybe this podcast might be a little wake-up call. We could tell him, hey, I did this podcast and I talked about what really happened. We could do something. Who knows? Whatever.
I thought about doing a whole YouTube video on it, and because I have the other 2 races, like I could post them. I thought about doing a whole YouTube video on it, and like I just have it.
Well, because you have the videos, right?
Yeah, I have the videos.
Oh,
I have
dude,
them.
so what the fuck? Let's put them out there.
I can put them out there. I don't know. I'd rather keep it as, cordial, so that I can take this thing out there and race it, because he just upped the power. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Right.
Sent his car back down to LMR and upped the horsepower, built the transmission. So I'd like to get a race in with the C6 versus his C7.
Right.
And see what happens there.
Well, I think this is what we should do. If you're gonna do it that way, I think this is what we should do. In my opinion, if you do that, this is what we should do. You should film the C6. We should beat his fucking ass, right? And then when we beat him, then we'll put up. Oh, and by the way, I didn't only beat you here. I also beat you here with my Shelby, which you didn't. My Shelby GT500. You didn't put these videos, so I'm gonna put them out all in a little combination video. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, just we'll to kind of.
I mean, I'm not saying you have to, listen, it's all in good fun. It's not like this is going to start a war, but I don't think it's honest of him to do something like that. And if you're going to do something like that, he should have at least told you, like, look, I kind of, for my audience, and I would tell him, look, if it's going to be like that, you know what? I'm not okay with that. I'm really not okay with it because that's not cool. You know,
Right.
you should be
And he even
honest.
asked me, he was like, "Hey, what's your worst roll?" And I was like, "Man, I was like probably a 40 roll,
Yeah, 40.
40 roll." So
42nd gear, first gear.
yeah, I mean, I was in second gear, and so it's still even in second gear. From 40, it just blows the tires off.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, probably a 40 roll. So that's what we did. We did all 40 rolls except for one. We did like a, I think we did, actually, no, I think it was 40 to 170. And that one I just, at 140 to 150 mile an hour, the GT500 just walked that Z01.
It just it walked it.
It walked right away.
But that's surprising, dude, because the Z01, his car's putting what, 650, 700?
Horsepower?
Or 8, 900. Yeah, well, I don't even know what
No,
power.
that car makes, so he claims it makes like 900 and something.
Okay.
But that car actually, so I had other companies that also build the Z01s reach out to me on Instagram, and they said that that car was making every bit of 1,050. So
Wow. Well, I'll tell you this, because the Z01, I mean, again, with bolt-ons, and if you do a cam, I mean, I remember I worked at Redline Motorsports for a little bit, and I really dove in deep with Chevy and obviously the Z01s, the C6s, and I mean, there was a Z01 that we had there that I mean, everything done to it, literally every single mod you could think of, including a cam, like a gigantic cam, and that car barely, I mean, it got up there, but it was at around 1,000 horsepower. And because of its weight, the Z01, which is right in between the C6 and the Z06, it actually weighs, and that was one of the reasons why I've always said that the Z06 is actually a better buy. There's no point, unless you're a collector and you really want to say you have a Z01, there's no point in getting a Z01. Get a Z06, twin turbo the fuck out of it, or do an amazing, a custom Whipple or even a Kenny Bell onto that, or even I forgot I'm trying to think of who else. There was two other companies that made a approach. Yeah, but the centrifugal stuff, I'm not too okay with just centrifugal chargers. I just don't like the way that they make power, and I'm not talking shit with ProCharge or anything like that, but I don't like I've never liked them. I've driven a couple of ProCharge cars, and there's something about them that they just, if you're gonna get that type of charger, you might as well just.
I like that jet sound. They just sound awesome.
Oh, it sounds ridiculous. Sounds like a fucking yeah. It sounds like a jet.
But no, his has big cam ported. It had a big ported blower.
Right.
Kong. It had every bolt-on you can think of, and everybody else, like I said, reached out and said with the exact same mods that he has, they're making 1,050 to the tires.
He should have because of the weight, man. I mean,
that car weighs 3,800 pounds.
The Z01?
3,800. Yeah, they're heavy.
What? I thought they were 30, like they were close to 33, especially with the carbon roof and.
No, they're like 3,800 pounds.
Dude, I really thought that they were a lot less because your Shelby was 441, right? 44,000.
Originally it was 4,200 pounds.
Yeah.
But I put a couple of lightweight stuff on there, like the wheels. Man, the wheels I had on there dropped a lot of weight.
Yeah, of course.
So I probably dropped about 100 pounds total on the car. So
4,100, let's say, and then with you back in there. Yeah, so with you back in there, like another 100 pounds and something, whatever.
Yeah, no, I weigh like 250, but yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. So I mean, obviously, you brought weight out of the car.
But yeah, and honestly, what's crazy is with me in the car, I think I weighed it because I was in a class you had to weigh at least 4,200 pounds, and they weigh you. And with me in the car, it weighed like just shy of 4,300.
Okay. So it's a good run. I mean, and as far as the gears, I mean, it's not an automatic. It's not like you turn into an automatic. It's still a manual car, right? 6-speed.
No, his is an automatic.
Also, he went crazy with the car.
Yeah, his is an automatic. So,
oh wow.
And it's factory. It had the factory auto in it, and that was the biggest deal. The reason why my car pulled so well above like 140, 150 is just because of gearing. Like I was still in a driving gear. I think he was too. But like my 1-to-1 isn't really 1-to-1. It's like a 1.1 to 1, something like that.
Right.
So he's in like an actual overdrive gear where I'm in like I'm still pulling pretty hard.
Right.
And because my car revs out 8,500 RPM, so I'm able to keep the gears longer. I can do that better gear ratio just because I have the high revenue motor.
Right. But if he's got the cam though, then and I don't know. That's. I mean, he should have been. I mean, I think that's why it was so confident.
Like honestly, the cars from let's say 50 to 140, dude, it was whoever got the hit first.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, it was those cars were
neck and neck.
It was nobody was really pulling on anybody. The cars were close, but then, like I said, after 140, it was. Like you see in the video, like I can actually send it to you later on.
Yeah, for sure.
Like my car just literally just started walking away.
Maybe, I mean, that sounds like maybe some going on with maybe there was some going on with the fuel. You know, it looks like your car was on point. Maybe his car wasn't as on point. Because I'll tell you this, a lot of things that I've noticed, maybe you've probably heard of this as well, but one of the things that I've always noticed is that there's two types of dynoing, right? Especially when it comes down to tuning, right? And there's two types of tuners. There's the guys that they swear on the dyno, everything gets good done on the dyno, and when they're done, they do a foundation on the dyno, they do all the pulls on the dyno, they get the car out of the dyno, and then they go to the street, and then oh yeah, you're making 1,000 horsepower, you're making 1,000 horsepower. What I've seen, some of the best tuners on the face of the planet, here in Miami and in Florida and throughout the world. There's two types of tuning that you do. You do the tuning on the dyno, you do the foundation, everything we just talked about, but then you take the car on the street and then you go ahead and fill in the gaps of things that might be missing, fuel trims that might change because now the car's it's on its own load. It's a big difference. Things change.
Right. Yeah, we actually so with mine, that's one thing. Palm Beach Dyno, man, like because they actually sponsor the GT500.
Right.
You know, so Ken, every time I'd go to the track, you know, like I said, I spent so much time on the dyno with that car just because every time we do something, and we progressed that car so freaking fast. Like it was insane, like how quickly that thing made as much power as it did.
Right.
But like as soon as we get done with the dyno, like you said, like we wouldn't do it on the street. We'd go to the track, and you know, we would continue tuning it at the track.
Right. That's the proper way of doing it. And a lot of people, so it could be, I'm not trying to give him any points or anything, but I'm just saying it could be that maybe what he thinks. That's the other thing, man. I've seen this a lot. I've seen a lot of people that have money throw the book at the car, right? They pick up the car. They've never been in a 900 horsepower car. They've never been in anything that's above maybe 550, 600. So what a lot of these companies will do is that they will actually tune the car, and the car might on the dyno make 900, but they'll go ahead and they'll break down the fuel trip. They might take some horsepower out of the car when they give it to the client. Client goes out, doesn't really race it. He might go race people, and he might beat them by a little bit, and oh yeah, I got 900 horsepower. Yeah, look, the only way to know for sure that you're pushing that amount of power, you go to the track, you dial on the car, and then you put the time, and you look at the mile per hour, and you look at your 60 foot. And you look at your time. That's the true way of knowing, hey, this for sure my car is no joke putting down these numbers.
Right.
A lot of people don't do that. And so I think that, I used to run into them all the time with a Cobra and friends that had C606s and, I'm pushing 1,000 horsepower. I'm like, oh yeah, really? Race this 700 horsepower car. And dude, we would smoke them. And there's something wrong. I'm like, no, I don't think you're pushing 900 horsepower. And you think that you're pushing 900 horsepower, but you're not.
Well, in his car, absolutely. So his car was running like a low 9 on a 20. On a 20.
Yeah, so that
car is definitely making power.
Right.
And I think he said, I wouldn't say low 9, but not like I think it's what he said was 9.3, but it was trapping like 151, 152 mile an hour.
Okay. So the car is definitely making the power then.
Yeah, it's definitely making the power. But my car, we couldn't get a 60 foot. I don't know how much you know about the DCTs and the GT500.
It's a pain in the ass.
It's a huge pain in the ass. We don't have any tuning on them right now.
Right.
So if you get a 1.6 60 foot, you're doing damn good. Ken just got his car. He got his car to the track yesterday, and he was able to get a 1.5 60 foot, which is phenomenal. It's insane for these cars.
Right.
Like on that ZR1, with a converter, that car is doing 1.3 60 foots. That's that's a huge difference. If you know anything about drag racing, that's 2/10 in
huge.
The 60 foot, and it's equivalent to 3 or 4 in a quarter mile.
Right.
So, but my car is trapping 154, 155.
Right. So mile per hour, you guys were close, but and you guys were doing, it was all pulls, but you didn't do any digs, right?
No, we didn't do any digs.
Yeah, because that wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair to you, and he'd have all the advantage on that one.
Well, on a dig, honestly, I think I would have the advantage because he's still on a 20. He's on an R-AAA-R tire, and I was on a Mickey Thompson ET Street R.
Well, that's true.
So,
and but remember, but him having the automatic, it's like, but that's the other thing, dude. Are you sure? Because that ZR1s, I don't believe ZR1s ever came with an automatic. I thought ZR1s were also.
Yep. The C7 ZR1 has an automatic option.
Oh, it's a C7. I'm thinking C6, dude. I'm sorry. Sorry, I
No, no,
was
no,
correct.
no. Yeah, he's got
I
a
got you.
C701.
Okay, yeah, the zero one, yeah, the C7, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that's why. Okay, so that's why when you said the weight, that's why I was like, wait. I was thinking of C6 for whatever reason. I
No, no,
got you
no.
now. That makes
C701.
sense.
So it's like
Okay.
3,800
Yeah,
pounds.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool.
And it's got a 26. I mean, it's got the same. This is another reason why I know he's making more power than he says, because so we have the same blower. It's 2650.
Mm-hmm.
At least the same rotor pack, anyways.
Right.
Different blower setup, but and it's a Kong ported blower. You know, he had all the bells and whistles with a cam and all that.
Right.
But he said even he was making 23, 24 pounds of boost.
Okay.
My car, and that's a 6.2, right?
Right.
So my car was only making 21 pounds of boost, 21, 22, and it's only a 5.2, and it's the same size blower. So,
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
it doesn't make any sense why I would be making less or more, why I would be making more power than he was.
Right. For sure. I mean,
So,
you could, well, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. As far as, I mean, the science is there, the numbers are there, and so it doesn't really match up, that's for sure. Well, we'll figure out what we could do, because that'll be obviously with this now that you're building, and it's going to be pretty awesome to. I think you're going to get them nasty. If anything, you're probably going to beat them by a lot more because your weight now. You're 500 or 400 pounds less.
oh no, this thing weighs like 900 pounds less.
Yeah, in fact, that's a big difference. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
right. So that's a huge difference. I mean, 900 pounds. That's huge. That could be bus links all day long. So that'll be
But
awesome.
he said he just had a built motor and supposedly making like another extra 150 horsepower too. So
Yeah, but 900 pounds. That's
that's a big
that's still
difference.
not. Yeah, that's not gonna help them out.
Cool, I'm
then.
getting really cold. I'm actually gonna pause this real quick. We're gonna go.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can go inside. No problem, man. I don't want you to freeze to death.
Oh, the sun went away and
You're like,
it's really cloudy and windy right now. So
I got you. Not a problem. I like your next question to me. So it's obviously favorite cars you've driven, owned, and why.
Yeah.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
So, yeah, man, that's a great question. So, favorite cars, man, that I've driven. I'd have to say it's a nice little list of that. Let me see. Well, one of the most iconic cars I've ever driven was a Ferrari F40, which was that was a pretty special thing. I had a friend of mine who had a nice little collection of cars. This is one of the cars he had got earlier on before they went into the $1 million price tag. And it was nice. It was an experience to drive that car. I didn't get to really go crazy with it or anything like that, but I got to just kind of move it around, take it down the street, go through the gears, and it's a very, very special car. I'm a huge Ferrari guy. I mean, I love Ferrari. I'm half Italian, so I'm a little bit biased, but it's just, I think anybody who's anybody looks at that car and just loves the car. It's one of those very special supercars that, kind of paved the road for supercars in general, and still today is just a badass car. It's pretty crazy because something you don't really notice. I mean, you could look up pictures, but you don't really notice it when you open the door on that thing. The entire it's not carbon fiber; it's Kevlar. So it's nice to see that with carbon fiber, obviously it's always like a black and a gray. Kevlar is like a yellowish color,
right.
and that's right away you look, oh shit, that's Kevlar. It was nice to see that. The roof panel obviously is I mean, it looks so cheap, and they did it obviously because it didn't weigh anything. But the headliner is made out of this very cheap looking white. It's like a remember that like pleather type of material that looked like it had holes to breathe. They used in. I'm trying to figure out a car that was used in, but it wasn't used in cheaper cars, and they used that again because of the weight. So that was kind of funny to watch that. The weirdest part of the car is the steering wheel. This was still back in, when Ferrari was still had what's called they make fun of it, but the UPS style, like steering wheel.
Yeah.
The column, the steering column, the way that you sit, it's almost like a truck, and it's very strange. You have to kind of get used to that, but you get used to it right away. I mean, it's not like it's a problem. It's kind of in front of you and it goes up. Besides that, man, the clutch, everything is just like you would have it on any supercar. It's a very analog car. It's got a lot of good power. It's got a good power range. It takes a little bit for the turbos to spool up, but once around 3,000 plus RPM, they start spooling up, and around 4 grand, they kick in, and it kicks you in the butt a little bit, and you start moving, and it's a super fun car. I've driven 458s, 48s, Lamborghini Hurricanes, Gallardos, the Aventador. I haven't been able to drive any of the hypercars, the LaFerrari, the P1. I sat in a LaFerrari, but I haven't been able to drive a LaFerrari, a P1 or a 918. That's kind of what I'm. Hopefully, maybe this year I'll get some chances to do that, and that'll be nice. And some of the tuner stuff that I had, I drove a 1,000 horsepower Supra, one of my friend's Supras, which was super fun, Gen 5 Supra. It was funny. He was kind of terrified of the car, and he wasn't really driving it. He had 1,000 horsepower, close to 1,000 horsepower, and every time he would drive it, since he never did the cam in that car, the cams, the car only had a little bit to work with. It had a big turbo. It would barely spool up at like not even like 5,800. Like you'd have to rev that thing to at least 9 to make power, and he didn't have the cam. So the problem was he'd make power for maybe 1,500 RPM, and then the car, you'd have to switch gears, and he would barely get into it. So it's funny. We were talking shit one day, and he knew that I could drive cars. Like he knew some of the crazy shit that he had seen me do in my cars, but I had never driven his car. And he was a little drunk. He's like, "Hey, man, you're always talking about, your Cobra. Yeah, but you've never driven Superman. You never." I'm like, "Well, you never let me fucking drive it, bitch. Like you're always picky about that shit." So. Well, let's go drive it right now. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go, dude. And I drove the shit out of that thing, and he came out of that car white, and he's like, dude, how did you do that? What the fuck? I'm like, I didn't do anything, dude. I drove the car. Like, you don't drive the car, and you never really learned how to drive the car properly. So after that, he did the cams, and at least he made a little more power, had a bigger power range. The Aventador.
I didn't know any of the Mark V's had.
What? What's that?
I didn't know any of the Mark V Supras had made it to that level yet.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, man, that the new Supra, dude, to me, I don't like everybody, I don't really consider that thing a Supra. It's a Z4, BMW right. Z4. I hate to say that, but I really wish that Toyota would have gone full out and made the FT1 concept that everybody was like, holy shit, the Supra's finally coming back.
Right.
They really dropped the ball on that. I think that they really fucked up. But Toyota is and Toyota has so much money, man. They're $1 billion company, and they couldn't even bring back the Supra properly, like what Nissan did with the GTR. What?
No, there's somebody else talking.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of pathetic to me that Toyota couldn't do something properly like the FT1 concept. They should have done it. They didn't. Obviously, there's a lot of people that I knew that when they were going to get their hands on it, they were going to put a 2JZ in it. There's a bunch of people that have done it. And the 2JZ, dude, even still 20 years later, it's still just an amazing platform.
For sure.
For an engine, it still kicks ass. Put a turbo, a properly set up turbo on that thing, and it'll just go through the gears and fucking kick ass. It'll win races. So it's kind of sad. I mean, what they could have done so much. Like, in my opinion, what they should have done was made a 4-liter, like a 3JZ is what they should have done, right? Which would have been just ridiculous. A 4-liter twin turbo, 600 horsepower from the factory, and then all you'd have to do is probably change out the turbos and make 1,000 horsepower with some bolt-ons. And they didn't do that. They decided to go this other route. And I'm a huge BMW guy. I love BMWs. I've had actually, that's some of the other cars I want to tell you. I'll send you some pictures of. I don't know. Did I send you a picture of that 1 of 7 E36 M3 that I had?
No.
Yeah, I had a couple years back. It's been I hate to talk about it because I had to sell the car, and actually to the guy that owned the F40, I sold it to him, and he was supposed to keep the car for a year. I was going through hard time, and I was supposed to buy the car back from him, and he ended up selling it to some asshole like 2 months later who turned it into a track car, and it just destroyed me, man. I was like, you turned a 1 of 7 E36 M3 that's literally rarer than the LTWs into a fucking track car. Like, obviously the guy was an idiot. Worst part of that story was that it was at the shop that I was actually, I was dealing a lot with the shop. It's a shop over here in Miami. Very cool people called TLM. They do a lot of track racing with Porsches and BMWs. And it was there. I was there. Talking to a friend of mine because we were gonna set up some. I was gonna bring some clients to him to do some of the Cup 911 Cup car racing that he does. And I see my car there, and well, it wasn't my car anymore, but I see the M3, and I'm like, fuck, like that's my car. Like, what the fuck is it doing here? And he kind of looked at me, and he didn't want to tell me. He's like, oh, it's a client, and he's in here. I'm like, dude, all you do is track racing. What is the car in here for? Well, we're doing the head. I'm like, dude, don't fucking lie to me. Like, David, like, why is the car there? Well, he's turning into a track car. And I'm like, oh, dude. So I actually told him, I'm like, look, give me the guy's number. I got to call this guy. And I called him up. I tried buying the car back from him. He's absolutely out of his mind. At that point, I didn't even know that the car had put the E46 motor, which is like a newer version of the M3 motor, which is the S54. They put that motor already in it. They had thrown the turbo because that car had a built motor and a single GT35R, GTX 35R actually. The car was making 800 horsepower. It was a fucking amazing car. And they threw all that shit out like if it was garbage. It just sold everything. They sold the interior, which is one of the reasons why it was a 1 of 7. Had a very specific, very rare Alcantara from the factory interior, gray interior that had the inserts in the middle that was called the M cross stitch pattern. And dude, they just threw that shit out. So they did all this stuff. The guy basically removed all the stuff that made the car worth money. And when I called him, I'm like, well, what do you want for the car? He's like, oh, well, I want 50 grand. Like, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, what are you smoking? Like, you destroyed the car and now you want more money for it? Like, you're crazy. Well, what's your offer? I'm like, dude, I sold the car for 18. If you want, I'll give you 20. Like, that's what it's not even worth that. I have to put, if I buy the car back, I'm going to have to put at least another $20,000 to buy back all the shit that you sold. Oh, no, you're crazy. I'm like, okay, you know what, fuck you. So I haven't seen the car ever since. And, he still races and stuff. And I actually just recently this year decided I'll contact him again, to see if maybe he might be, maybe he might be selling it again for a little bit. Now he wants 70,000. So I'm like, all right, you're crazy. So those are some of the cars. I mean, we could be here talking for 2 hours about that. I don't want to go crazy with it, but those are some of the cars. The F40 was amazing. It was really a just insane car. And the Aventador, I'll tell you this, Aventadors are super heavy, right? They're almost as much as your Shelby, 4,200 pounds.
Oh, wow.
But, dude, that thing pulls like a fucking freight train. That V12, that 6.5 V12, it pulls. I mean, I couldn't believe how much it felt like a 900 horsepower car, if that makes any sense. So that was
700, don't they?
Yeah, they make barely 700, but the way that it collects the speed, and because of the mass of the car, I think it just feels like so much more. Very fun car to drive. It's an Aventador. It's a Lamborghini Aventador. Now, if you ask me, would I rather have a Hurricane? I think that I would prefer, like an underground 3,500 horsepower for sure all day long. I'd prefer the Hurricane because it's a lighter car. The four-wheel drive system on the car is a little bit different than the one that's on the Aventador. It's pretty amazing because it's more rear-wheel drive bias. You could play around with the car a lot. You could put it sideways, drift it, really kind of throw the car around more than you can in Aventador. Aventador is just like a tank that's stuck to the ground, and it's just, it does what it does good, which is pull in a straight line.
I have a buddy who just bought an Aventador.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's which one? Like any specific one, like an SV or anything like that, or just regular?
I think it's just a base Aventador.
Okay.
There's one that looks just like it though here in town. It's an NSV, and that thing is sick.
Yeah, they're really amazing cars. But I'd say that most people that get into that car, it's a very daunting car. When you get into it, you realize that you really got to know your dimensions of that car because it's so wide, and you sit so low that it's hard. You do a lot of that reaching over to see the front end when you're trying to park. Not me, but I'm saying most people would. So it's a car that I think takes a lot of getting used to make sure that you know what you're doing in it. There's a lot of people that obviously don't do that. They just buy it to say, oh, I got an Aventador. But yeah. Let me see here. I'm gonna go to the next question. So I think we kind of went over it, which was what type of activities do you use your high performance cars besides, quote unquote, besides circuit racing, drag racing. Obviously for you, it's mainly street racing and drag racing, right?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay. And you're going to be doing the same thing with, I mean, the C6 will be, I mean, are you going after any specific cars, like with the 1200 horsepower, 1300 horsepower that you're going after?
Not necessarily specific cars. So if you've been on my Instagram, I actually am trying to call out like all the fast, like self-proclaimed fastest YouTubers.
Right. Which is awesome.
And racing all of them. So
that's awesome. I think you should do a series. I think it'd be cool. Maybe we could, if that's something that I know we talked about for YouTube, we could maybe do a series where we go after everybody, and just every single episode would be going after that next YouTuber.
I mean, we can do that, but it won't be until next year.
Right. No, I get you. Actually, you just answered my next question. So, Lee, what type of time frame do you think you're looking at to finish the car?
Be done. I'd like to have it in Texas 2K.
Okay, cool. So you're going. So for sure, you're going to Texas 2K.
I mean, I can't say for sure because if the car doesn't get done,
right.
But if the car is done, for sure, I'll be down there.
Awesome. Cool. I'm going to go over to the next question you asked me, which was, what made you want to be in the automotive sales market? It kind of was what we talked about before. It was I was already in it. I just wasn't utilizing the contacts that I had. And I decided, I'm like, look, one of the things that really drew me to it was getting involved with the owners, being able to meet the collectors because they have such amazing cars, getting to visit their collections and going there and talking shit with them, hanging out with them. That's always a relationship building type of thing that I very much enjoy, as far as doing it for my company and doing it for myself. And you get to meet amazing people like what you did with your Shelby. You know, you get to, I mean, if it wasn't for your Shelby when you had it, you probably would have never met any of the people you met.
For sure. So
it's a good experience as far to do that. And I think the other thing is also, obviously, I mean, the money's important too. It's you can make, some of these cars have really big commissions. The more rare cars like the LaFerraris, the P1s, and the 918, stuff like that. Some of the people out there, me myself, it's a little hard to get to that point. But I'd say that you could make, if you're very successful at it, which really being successful is just having the right contacts, because everything else is pretty much all, if you're into it, most people can do. But you have to know how to talk to people. You have to be passionate about it. There's a lot of sales guys out there, brokers, that they don't know shit about cars. They just know Aventador, 450 grand. LaFerrari, $1 million. They just know the pricing.
Right.
And I think it's kind of stupid. It should be a little bit more about just pricing. And let me tell you, dude, I even had 2 years ago, I'll send you the link so you can check it out. I didn't have it on the link I sent you. I even had access to a McLaren F1. They were asking, I think it was 12 points. It was close to 13 million for that specific car. It was a car that had 2 owners. It was a pretty rare car. It was black with, it wasn't beige. It was like a specific gray interior. I actually have video of that car, a proof of life video, which was pretty awesome. And I had somebody that, when I got into the F1 world, sent me their McLaren F1, the LM, which I don't know if you know that car, but that's like the rarest formula, the F1, McLaren F1. It's the rarest one. They only made 5.
Wow.
Which is, that car is just ridiculous. But those people, again, they were talking 30. They were almost talking 917 pricing. They wanted 30 million. And I'm like, okay, well, if I come across someone that has $200 million in the bank and wants an LM, I'll give you a call. And dude, the guy was crazy. Like I asked him, like, what exactly do you want for the car? He's like, well, I'm willing to consider, 30 million, around 30 million if you can get someone. I'm like, what? He's like, what do you mean you're willing to consider? Like, if I bring you someone that's willing to give you 30 million, you're not going to sell? No, I'd have to think about it. I'm like, okay.
Well, something like that, it's obviously his pride and joy. So it's harder to take somebody away from that than, like me with this Corvette. Like, I'd sell it tomorrow if somebody offered me the right amount of money.
Right, for sure. Yeah, it's. I mean, a car like that, it's a one in a lifetime type of car. I get it, but some of these guys, and I asked them. I said, "Do you even drive the car?" He's like, "No. That car's sitting in a warehouse on a pedestal, rotating platform." I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's a shame. That's, right. I think that's the other thing that's changed with YouTube, especially with the YouTubers now. Like, you have guys like from Daily Driven Exotics, what's his name? Damien.
Mm-hmm.
they're all kind of changing the way that people should be using these cars. You know, like Stradman. Dude, do you know the Stradman got a fucking Bugatti now?
Yeah, he's supposed to race street speed.
No
Bugatti
way.
versus the 01, yeah.
With the Bugatti?
Yep.
Oh, dude, I don't even like how the fuck did that happen? Like he just jumped from the Hurricane and there's just Bugatti. I'm like, what the fuck? Like what? It's like, dude, we gotta.
He had an Aventador and
Yeah, he had the Aventador, he had the Hurricane. I mean, and then just all of a sudden Bugatti. I'm like, okay, how the fuck?
I watched that whole series. He was like, yeah, it's about time for me to get a real supercar.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, holy shit. I follow him as well. But it'd be cool. Yeah, we should definitely do something where once you have the car ready, we could definitely reach out to all these guys and do some pretty amazing videoing. I'd love to do that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I'd like to. Some of these guys are just so hard to get a hold of.
I know. Well, I have access to not the you have access to the guy from that racing channel, but I have a good friend of mine who's building a crazy Fiat. I'll send you some pictures of it. It's not what you think. It's a ridiculous Fiat from back in the 70s, but it's a insane car. He knows a guy from 1320, so maybe we can get everybody together and do like this ridiculous, insane thing where we go to Texas, UK, and then go to all the different states. It'd be cool. I mean, the car is definitely going to kick ass. So
right. Yeah, I actually had Fred and the guys from 1320 came to an event here and did a whole series on my car.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, on the GT500.
Awesome. So then you know Maria. Are cool. Yeah, I mean, it like you said, it's hard to get in contact with these guys, but
I mean, it's not saying that I can reach out. I don't have his number or anything.
Right, but I know who you are, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he knows who I am.
Right.
And then the guy at I talked to Justin from
horsepower obsessed?
No. From Stainkiller.
Oh, Stainkiller. Okay.
He does all the what is it? Streetcar takeovers.
Okay.
So I actually went to, I think, five streetcar takeovers this summer.
Nice. They had that many?
Oh, he had more than that. I didn't make it to all of them.
Shit. What do they do it every month?
He does about one a month, yeah, if not more.
Shit. Dude, we got to get in contact with him.
Every 2 weeks or so.
That'd be awesome. Well, I told you I have the car event that I do down here in Miami, so we could definitely, once you have the car up and running, we could definitely do some really awesome stuff.
I mean, down in Miami, that's a long drive.
I know. But, you know, we could figure something out. Maybe we could, I mean, I'm trying to figure out some, there's a girl that I had on. She's great. She's into the rallying, like all the rallies that are going on in the country. So I told her that maybe we could, you know, coordinate something where we would go, she'd come down here and then vice versa. We'd go up, you know, back to where she's from, which is Texas, which is pretty awesome. And she's doing some cool things over there as well with this. She was just at the track of Super America. So she was doing some, she's coordinating some pretty cool stuff. And then there's a huge car show, which I'll invite you to as well, man. It's going to be at the end of this, obviously not this year because it's almost over, but next year. So we have about a year to plan. It's going to be like a huge event that we're trying to get pretty much everybody from all the states, car guys, car girls from all the states. And we're going to meet at this in the middle over there by Chicago. I got to get all the logistics and all that going, but
Chicago would work for me because that's like 3.5 hours.
Right, that's not that far from me exactly. Awesome, man. Well, I think we covered everything. We you know, we did pretty good. 2 hours. That's a pretty good podcast. Trying to see here. Last question that you had asked me. We kind of went over. It was, you know, will you be modifying your cars, this, that, whatever? Obviously, we kind of went through that. So that was my last question to you. Okay. So yeah, man, I really appreciate you being on the podcast. It's been great, and I hope that you know you have, well, I don't want to say good luck because you already have a good platform, but I'm saying I hope that the build comes out exactly the way. Do you have any plans at all to maybe change the turbos if they don't do exactly, like if they don't, you know, if they're not as efficient as you want them to be?
So I'm actually as a side gig, I'm a dealer for Comp Turbo. So if it comes down to it, I mean, I won't have any problems making the turbos bigger. The only problem is I don't want to have, because it's a street car, I really don't want to have any more lag because on the street, I won't be turning it up that much anyway.
Right.
So I don't see any real reason to go much bigger. The only reason I might go to like a billet ball bearing setup, so I can get quicker spool times.
Exactly.
And right now, I mean, it still spools, 3,500 RPM, so it's not that bad.
That's pretty good. Yeah. That's what I did with the with my E36. What I had done was that when we had to do a drivetrain transfer from the older E36 that I had because that had the built engine and put it into the new car. We removed all we did is just remove the impeller. So that's why it went from a GT35R to a GTX because it had the billet impeller. That by itself removed almost 800 RPM from the RPM that I had before. So we cut 800, almost 1,000 RPM lower than what it used to spool. So it makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, if I have to, I will. I really don't plan on putting a lot of money into this car. Next year probably, I don't know, October. I want to get into like a twin turbo R8.
Okay. Nice.
So
that would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, right. That's my
next level shit.
So I mean, I'm not going to be any of the 3,500 horsepower ones. It'll be 1,000, 1,200, something like that.
Yeah, but even that is just ridiculous. That's sick. It's amazing. That would be awesome. Are you right? So I was going to ask you. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Because I just was thinking about something. The tire setup you're going to go with the C6 is going to be similar to what you have in your Shelby.
It'll be similar, yeah. So for street use, it'll be a 17-inch rear with a ET Street R.
Nice. Yeah, so you can make the thing hook.
Yeah, so I mean, but on this track, I want to do a 15-inch conversion on it. I will put the money into that.
Cool.
And just to get it to really hook on the track. The problem is, man, these C6 Corvettes are they're just so expensive to modify.
Yeah.
So if anything breaks, drivetrain on the driveline on these things is not the strongest.
Right.
And they break pretty easy on the track. So
right.
That is
that's why most people, that's why they like rolls. They're like, I don't want to go to the track and break something.
Well, and the thing is, so like I luckily one of my sponsors from the GT500 rolled over into this project, and Lethal Performance. Are you familiar with them?
Oh, I know. Yeah, Lethal. Yeah, they're here in Florida.
Jared down there in Florida. He stayed on with this project. So if anything really bad happens, they've got my back and they'll help me out.
Cool. Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, Lethal, they've been around for a while. They're great. They had some of the fastest GT500s when they first came out. The was it 06 plus? They had that grabber one that was, I think they went from 8 to 1,000. I think that car. Do they have that car anymore?
I doubt it. They just broke the record for a Whipple 3rd gen.
Nice.
They went, like when I was down there, actually, same when I was down there at the track, they went 850. I want to say.
Shit. In a stick car?
Oh, no. So the 10R80. But dude, steel, like stock everything, stock motor, yeah, everything. So that thing is ridiculous.
Right.
But I thought they were only in the Mustangs. I thought that's the only thing they'd done was Mustangs.
I think that's what they started with.
And I think, and I'm sure that's what they started with, because like I had no idea they did anything else. And then he was like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "You want a rotating assembly? I'll get that for you. You want, I was like, "Okay." I had no idea.
Yeah, you gotta branch out. I mean, I believe that for a while. I think the first couple of years they were very heavy because that's all I remember them for was like Shelby GT500s, the 5.0s. I didn't know that they did it. Like you just told me that they did everything else, and I know that they probably had to expand.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just it's not necessarily something that's not their bread and butter. That's not something to go out.
Right.
They're not trying to take the market or anything like that. It's just probably over time rubbing shoulders with all these different companies. I'm sure they just were like, hey, we can offer this. So
exactly. Cool. Awesome, man. Well, Lee, I wish you, like I said, the not the best of luck. I know things are going to be great, but I hope everything goes as planned, and it's been great, man. We've been here 2 hours. Can't complain, man. That's a good podcast. We talked a lot about his stuff. We covered a lot of great stuff, and yeah, let's see if I'd love to see the video. Send me the video, and then maybe we can coordinate some other stuff. Maybe when you start taking the car to the dyno, we could do like a live podcast type of thing where we're there on the dyno with you. That'd be a lot of fun.
All right, man. Yeah, just reach out to me and we'll see what we can do.
Cool. Okay, Lee. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.